Uh, Good evening, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I know we're a little bit late. We did a solid for another our fellow YouTuber, and today's been a lot of stuff going on today. We had Parmer Ln go on at 5, and I wasn't expecting that. And I was going to take a nap, try to get a little bit of sleep, and I ended up watching most of that, and then. It was very interesting. And then right after that, Bettina, bam, with Christopher Garitano, another friend and ally of ours. And so I got to say this, though. Some people, because they don't work, they have time to just troll. Little Bray up there doing what they're doing. And we know it's you, Ike. We know that's you, okay? We know that you're the one that made the racist comment, and you did it again. You used you're not doing anything, so you have the sock account. So you went up there and you did what you did. You know it was you. I know it was. You did it again on Bettina's, and you did it to me last night. I was on Blondes and Booze last night, folks. If anybody didn't check it out, didn't catch it, I did a show with Blondes and Booze. Go check it out last night. We did the show and got a lot of views. Talked about a lot of things. I try to always bring my A game, but I really try to step it up when I go to someone else's show because, you're representing PRT. When you're on the road, basically, that's when you're somewhere else. You have to represent, right? And luckily for us, the paratroopers showed up like they always do. Always. So, people travel well. Our fans travel well, as we say. Yeah, what's crazy tonight on this, close that door, please. What's crazy with tonight is we got a late start. We still already starting out the gate. We have almost 200 people over here just starting out. If you get a chance, though, go check out Barton's show today. It was a Q&A he did on his live stream. He's finally doing his live streams, and Blondes and Booze were on there to help him. I'm still trying to get him and Letitia acclimated to it. I want to say this. I need prayers for my wife and me. We're still under spiritual attack. Very much so, and everybody's sitting here at this table. You want to say hi, Chris and Tony?
Yep. Chris is back again, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
You need to move over a little bit so you can get in. There you go. Don't break my chair this time, Chris. You broke my chair last time.
Yeah.
My bad.
So somebody asked me if you were going to be a permanent fixture, and I was like, no, thankfully not. No.
Oh, yeah.
Whew. Dodged a bullet on that one.
We already had to suffer for a whole weekend. You're going to make us go extend it?
Sorry about that.
Chris is one of the nicest guys ever. He's rolled with the punches. He knows we joke around, we mess around. Last night, we had a great time. We went out to eat at Saps, which is a really good Thailandese place.
Huge menu.
I mean, and they do a great job. And then some fans of ours showed up toward the end of we were already done eating, but Abe Sias and his wife showed up with their Borsite tank, threatening to shoot the whole restaurant. I was in fear for my life. I ran, and there was some people outside that caught me, and one of them gave me a Dogman story, and he said, I like your business card. I'm going to tell you a Dogman story, and so they did. And luckily, we all lived. Because Abe Sias, he's just out there. He's just crazy. He's just going to shoot everybody. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Thankfully, that man you gave the card to said, Abe, you are with the devil. Stay away. Stay away. Swiper, no swiping.
I stayed
away.
Thank God we all lived through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That boar sighting, man.
It was terrible, man. I'll tell you. A shout out to Ricardo and Miguel. Good guys. They showed up. Ricardo is actually the manager of Dragon's Lair. And I saw Miguel, and he was waiting on him, and I guess they had left he'd said a concert or a Halloween party or something like that. But anyway, I guess Miguel had been to a concert, and Ricardo was at a Halloween party. Ricardo Gonzalez, he's the manager at
Dragon's Lair.
Yeah. And he's also the one that got us in touch with the person that's helping Nellie with their board game.
Mm-hmm.
The board game's moving along, folks. People have been asking me about that. We don't know. We're hoping to start getting it mass-produced. We are probably going to do a GoFundMe and try to get that.
Yeah, we're just kind of like in a trial run where we just have to play it enough so we can figure out the kinks. But we'll get it all worked out. And I think what do you think, Chris? I thought it was something, really spectacular that I was really impressed with.
Yeah.
Then she did most of that herself. Me and Anthony really just.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm getting a phone call. Hold on.
Oh.
What was that? Oh, God, Swamp Waters. Oh, you're making a board game too now? and a conference.
Mm.
And you're inventing the next Tesla. This guy's long-winded.
Breaking news. He's going to start making a good.
Oh, okay. So you now own Tesla. Oh, okay. You made a comic book about it? Oh my gosh. So he owns Tesla now. I guess he threatened what's his name? Elon Musk.
No, I think he just created a fake Elon Musk account.
Oh, you didn't? You just told him he likes you that. He watches your show, huh?
Oh.
Because you're a major brand. Okay, well, like I said, my lord, I really want me talking to you. I gotta go. Bye.
Those comics.
It was the graphic novels. It was. Sorry, folks. I just, I got to be careful. I got to be careful. These people they're massive brands. They're major, whatever. A lot of corporate attention or whatever. And Ike up there, throwing rocks and going and trolling people. You're doing a great job, little trooper. Okay, keep good for being a try hard. Okay, but actually, we can't even give him that because he doesn't try hard. He just walks around out in his property and throws rocks. So. Sorry, man. I just gotta, I gotta have fun. We gotta have fun, right? Because when somebody gets on your friend's show and is racist and makes nasty little comments, and like she said, it's just stupid and funny now at this point. What are you supposed to do? We supposed to cry? We can't cry. All we can do is just laugh at it because it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Every day we did some other new heinous thing. We did. We were laughing last night so hard at the table because, apparently the conference was a scam, scandal / satanic ceremony. Gosh, golly gee, why would anyone want to be at my next conference? Everyone.
I mean, everyone who was there knows that's exactly what it was.
You didn't see the picture of Lyle holding up the goat skull? Like that was a secret code.
Oh, wow.
I'm deciphering it for you. He was telling everybody, look.
He held the herald of the skull?
This is what we're doing over there. Next conference is going to be worse. Oh, my gosh. We're going to.
That's why all these people came forward in droves to say how terrible it was. Right?
Those cowboy hats are really just covering up their little hoods that they wear. Yeah, they cover up the horns.
In fact, that hat on your guy actually has horns, but he's wearing a hat to cover it as well.
Yeah, that's right. So somebody's. I guess one of them was on his channel fighting mad, raging. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Keep raging, Cajun. We're good. So, anyways, folks, we got a show tonight. Enough trolling, enough joking, enough laughing, enough whatever, enough choking. What we're gonna do right now is talk about the paranormal, and we're gonna talk about some stories. We got a bunch of stories to talk about tonight. And don't forget, Tuesday, we have a 2-hour Halloween special coming. It's a pre-record. We're going to drop that like it's hot on Tuesday. I'm glad everybody's here. It's a little bit late for Tuesday or for Sunday for us, okay? So that's fine, though. We're gonna bang it out like we always do. We have a guest here in the studio, and we had BMR on Friday, right? And we're going to have a guy come on and tell about his Dogman story next Friday. Then the Friday after that, this other guy's going to talk about Dogman and a few other things he's got. But that's next week and the week after. What we have right now is our guest in the studio. Do you want to talk about your experiences? You want to start with that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about like all the.
He's fun. I hear it.
You're talking about like the ghost experiences I had, right? Because.
No, we're talking about when you fell off your bike when you were 8.
Oh yeah. I can tell you about that one too. That hurt. Well, I'd like to start off with this one. When I was in my young years, when I was a teenager, I was like really hardcore into like Iron Maiden, Megadeth, all that stuff. I was wearing like all the black, and I was into all that stuff, like the black nail polish and stuff. Yeah. Well, one day I was up in Houston. I know, I forget. Is this good?
Just look at.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Make it easier.
All right. I was staying over at my grandparents' house. It was for the summer, and I remember just working out that day. Working out messed up my shoulder a little bit. That night was pretty freaky. I think if anything that got me closer to God. What happened that night? I went to sleep with a messed up shoulder, and it was on this side. I was sleeping on my chest, and I just couldn't sleep. I mean, I was wide awake. And whenever I told this story to other people, it's like, oh, you just fell asleep. But here's the thing that was freaky. So I'm there laying down on the bed. No one came into the room. I want to just make sure that everyone knows that I was in the room by myself.
Stay on the mic.
And I'm laying there, and then it's like as if something was like it just appeared or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm facing close to the door, so there's nothing that could have got past me. I feel something on my back, like getting like a little massage over here and towards the middle of my back. I try to get up, like to turn around and see who it is. Just grabs me not didn't grab me, just like touched the back of my head and says, "Shh, go to sleep." And that freaked me out because I was just like, "Wait, who are you?" You know? I tried again to look, and it just shh, go to sleep, and I knocked out. You know, the next day, shoulder wasn't even hurting, and I thought it was freaky. But after that, to me, I felt like it was more of a I don't even know how to explain it, but I felt like after all that stuff that I was going through in my life, you know, all the bad things I went through, all the things that I was doing with you know, I mean, yeah, the stuff I was into. I don't really like talking about it too much, but because I mean, I want that buried. I don't want that coming back or anything. And I just thought it was weird having that happen. And then I just went to church the next day. My grandparents took me to church, and I just felt a little bit closer to God. And then before I started thinking about this, I was just thinking like maybe what I'm doing was bad, and it got me away from all the stuff I was doing. I mean, I still listen to my heavy metal, but it's not as much as I used to. And I used to listen to heavier stuff. I just threw in Iron Maiden and stuff, but there were like black metal bands, the death metal bands, and all that stuff that I used to be into. But I gave that all up. Sometimes I'll just listen to music, but just real chill music, But that's one of the stories. So what it is, I don't know. Honestly, I think it was an angel. Maybe it was, or something. But I think I don't know. I think it was an angel, to be honest.
But you never saw anything. You just felt it.
There was no light or nothing that because some people will talk about like they see it like a bright light, but
no, it's not always like that. I mean, I've talked to people who, I'm almost positive that what they witnessed was an angel, and it was not. It was just human-like. In fact, I got a story that I just got recently, and I don't know if I should tell it because kind of jumping here, but I'm building up a show for one about guardian angels or whatever. But I mean, I guess go on. Yeah.
Okay, that was one of my experiences, but I haven't had an experience after that for a good while, until my uncle passed away. That day, when he passed away, it was a sad day for me. I mean, he was one of the few uncles that took me in and was very, very nice because at that time I didn't have a place to stay, and I was a truck driver, so I just lived mostly in the truck. But when I started working with another company, and I wasn't on the road as much, I was being home a lot more often. My uncle just like, hey, just come over here and stay. Just come here, you can stay here. We got extra beds. So after he had passed away, about a good couple of weeks already, I came back during one of my trips. My aunt, she was okay with me staying there, and she let me have the guest room there. I don't know if this was my uncle. I have no clue. All I know is that when I was asleep, something grabbed me by the hand, and whatever it was or whoever it was, I just remember it was a rough hand, very, very, very rough, like someone who's been working with their hands like their entire life, which my uncle did. You know, he always did like gardening and stuff like that, and he'll cut the grass for the neighbors. He did a lot of like hands-on work. What I mean, I honestly, I want to say I hope that was my uncle, because I mean that would have been freaky. But something grabbed my hand, but I couldn't wake up. No matter how hard I tried to open my eyes, I just I just couldn't wake up, and I'm holding on, and whatever this hand was, it didn't like, there was no like malicious intent to it. You know, it wasn't like there's nothing to it. It was just felt like, someone I knew. You know, there was a feeling to it, a very comfortable feeling that I didn't want to let go. And well, eventually when they pulled away, I opened up my eyes and there's nobody there.
No.
Nobody.
You think that was your uncle?
I want to say it was. I really hope it. I mean, I really want to say it was him, but
Anything else happened like in that house after that? So do you think maybe he was coming just to say like, "Hey, I'm
maybe
leaving now"?
it could be that. I know my aunt would say things that it happened to her. Something there, like a little nod or like something will move,
Mhm.
but she never really talked too much in detail about it because she's not really into all that stuff. That would scare her a lot, you know. But when I told her about that, it freaked her out, and she thought like maybe it was, your uncle coming by just to say hi, just to, being there and trying to, because I helped out the family a lot even after all that. It was pretty bad after he passed away. He just had, my God, I think it was on 4th of July, and he just got up, used the restroom, fell down just like that. According to my aunt, it's just like he hit the floor, and no one knew what it was at the time, but it turned out that he had a heart attack, a massive heart attack,
Oh man.
and
Do you
yeah.
think that maybe he was kind of letting you know, like, um, he came and said, like, "Hey, I'm still gonna be around your aunt. Like, I'm gonna be around here watching over her, so don't be freaked out if something happens." And like, he gave you like that comforting, like, "Hey, everything's gonna be all right here because I'm here with her."
I believe so.
I want to add something to this. Uh, one time when we were at Tony at your house, your mother would talk to her friend from Vietnam. And now I don't speak Vietnamese like you do, but I understand some of it. But I didn't at that time. I didn't understand hardly any. And your stepdad was one of my good friends. I've said that before on the show. What ended up happening? We were over there, and your mother was on the phone with her friend from Vietnam. And hold on one second, folks. Okay. But she was on the phone with somebody from Vietnam, and what ended up happening, the person that she was talking to was very spiritually in tune, and she said that she wanted to talk to me. And Dow, your mother, asked me if I would let her speak to me, and she starts talking to me in Vietnamese, which I don't speak a lick of at that time, and I'm like, what? I don't know what this woman is saying. I don't know anything. And Dow was translating, and you and your sisters were there too. And I just remember the lady saying, and Dad was, as she translated, she says, "Do you have an uncle
Yeah.
that had passed away?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "This one died,
Young, right?
young. He died very young, and he died before you were born, and you share his name." And I thought that was weird. I was like, and then I said, no. At first, I was like, no, I don't have an uncle that had my name. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. My mom's brother Paul died when he was 18. He was murdered. And my middle name is Paul. So I was like, oh, okay. So it that was weird. And she said that this uncle had been following me since I was born. And she was like, he's been there since birth, and he's been sort of, like your guardian angel. And I thought that was very odd, to say the least. And it was kind of an aha moment because I'd always wondered, I'd always felt like there was something there. And then when my grandfather died, I felt his presence around me very, very strongly and throughout the 90s. And my grandfather was a fighter. He was a very tough guy, but he was violent. And And I always felt like whenever I would get into some sort of altercation or I would do something, I felt like there were people there like helping me do it, like get through it. And I always thought that that was the case.
I can imagine your grandpa sitting there like, boy, you better not get your butt whooped.
And I always felt like that too. And then there was a psychic that came into the club one time, and she walked around our club. It's the largest dance club in pretty much Central Texas. It's a humongous building. The capacity is like well over anything else in Austin. And so she came in one time it was the night before Halloween. I remember it was like back in the late 90s. And she went around the club and she pinpointed all the spots that were haunted, like where people would see stuff and I would hear stuff and things would happen. And there was an old manager that used to run that place long after I had left. And me and him were good friends. And you guys know him as Eddie. Yeah, Eddie. We called him Eddie Versace. That was his nickname. And so he's had a lot of health problems lately. So keep him in your prayers, guys. He's a good guy. He just had some health issues. I think his wife listens to the show, and if you're there, Laura, hey. But he wanted to do a show about the club, and I've been kind of holding off saying anything because me and our Ash were like, hey, we should come on the show and bring Squid and talk about a bunch of stuff that happened at the club. And then Jerome had messaged me one day, and I think he was actually in Malaysia. He's always traveling. His wife's from the Orient, and they travel a lot. And so he was like, he's worked for Tesla. And he told me, he's like, you should do a show for the club, and I'll fly in, and we could all sit around and talk about it. And I said, that's a great idea. But we were kind of waiting for Eddie to get well so he could tell his stories. And so we're thinking about doing one just about the club because there's a lot of stuff that I haven't said about the club. But this woman came in, and she was a psychic, and she was Hungarian. I remember that. And she was friends with the owners, and me and the owners were like tight. We're pretty good. We're pretty good friends. And so work with somebody for 8 years. I mean, you become pretty good friends. And she went around the club and she pinpointed all these spots, and it was amazing what she knew and how she figured it out. And I mean, I'm not one of those people that I don't try to use those kind of things. I have had premonitions. I've had things come true. I've seen apparitions, but it comes naturally to me. A lot of people, when they do spell casting or they do all this other kind of stuff, I don't need to do any of that. To me, if it comes natural, and it's a gift. If you have to go out looking for it or try to make it happen, then it's not, and you're trying to force something that's unnatural. That's something I had to explain to my brother. Can you get him and Scorpio to moderate, please? See hardly any moderators in here. So let me get some wrenches in here because we don't need to get attacked by a little Ikey because he doesn't work. So remember that. He can sit there and just fire off. He's watching us right now, I'm sure. Yeah, eat your art out. This is what a real chat looks like. So the thing is, when me and her talked after she did the whole thing, she went around, she did a cleanse and all this stuff. And like I said, it wasn't my club. I didn't own it. And it wasn't my decision to bring her there. We did our own cleanse with an Orthodox priest that came in that was friends with one of the Lebanese guys that worked there. What's up? You had said something. And so she made mention of some of the stuff that had gone on there that was very violent, and she said there was a very, very, very strong spirit of violence in that club, and there was. And she said that it thrived on the violence that was there, and it made it worse. And earlier when I was watching Bettina Moss interview our good friend Chris Garetano, and he mentioned also that me and him were working on a couple projects together. One of the things me and Garetano had talked about was how this dark energy, can cause people to do things. And one of the things that it can cause, like he was talking about William DeFeo and Amityville Horror. I had several bouncers that worked for me and that worked with me. A few of them you guys have probably heard their names mentioned or had them on the show. And these were guys that were fighters. They all trained with different people. Rough trade. Talking about guys that are all almost, all had records or ex-military or something. I mean, they were doing something, and they were very immune to the problems that come with violence. They don't care. They're just like, it doesn't bother me. There's no stress or anxiety involved. They don't give a crap. And she said that there was a spirit that dwelled within that building, and every time there was a fight, that it was there around the problems. And I saw some very strange things. I saw people get into fights that were just standing close to each other, and then it was like, what's up, and they're looking at each other. Next thing you know, they're swinging, and it was very odd the way it went down. And you would watch this and go, what the hell? And I had people, I'd just ask them to leave the club because they're being belligerent, and they would just turn around and swing on me. And I'm not joking. Like, there was some tough people that would go in there, and some of these people were dealing things, you know what I mean? All kinds of stuff. They were into all kinds of stuff, and they would bring their boys in there, and they would start trouble, and we would have to fight. Of course, you're patting them down. They don't have a gun on them. We know that, or a knife, because they have to leave it at the door. You can't come in with that, and so, or we just didn't let them in. So it was just hands, But they would grab glass and whatever else they could, And when she said that, I thought about that, and she said that this entity fed on that energy of violence. It was an entity, and I think that entity at times would try to spark me to do things, because I would be sitting there and I would get very agitated with people very quickly, and it was sometimes to the point where I had to figure out, like, if I was being like cajoled into a violent altercation that shouldn't happen, that didn't need to happen. It was just something that I think this entity or whatever wanted it to happen. And when she did that I think it was 1999, it gave me a different perspective. Whenever something would happen, I would think about that. Like, what is it? Is it this thing causing this to happen? And sometimes whenever I would be there alone at night, I would hear, like, or during the day in the afternoon, I would hear pool balls clanging, and I would hear conversations. One time I was upstairs and I was there by myself, and I would bring my dog with me, Ivan, my Mastiff. His head was like this big. Am I joking? You guys remember how big he was.
I was unfortunate to not meet Ivan, but the pictures he's seen, he's a huge old boy.
Yeah, your stepdad knew him very well. He babysat him a couple times, but he would get, if you left him alone, for a couple days, he would get antsy and he would try to, like, break out of the house. But looking back on it, it's because that house was messed up. And so I had a Mastiff and a German Shepherd at the same time, and they were both pretty tough. And sometimes they would just, tear stuff up, I mean, not even puppies anymore, but they would still just, they would act out. And I think that whatever was in that house was doing it, causing it. So, we were at the club one day, and my dog, he didn't want to come up the stairs. He just stayed at the bottom of the stairs, acting weird. So I get up the stairs, and I hear what sounds like two females arguing, and it sounds like an altercation happening. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. I mean, it sounded like actual people in there. I open the door, and there's nothing there. Because there's nobody in the club but me. And then I turn around, and the dog is right next to me, and he's pushing up against me. And I look down, and I see this kind of shadow-looking thing, like kind of just sticking to the wall where the rock is. There's like this rock wall by the dance floor. And it was weird. Like, you'd see things like that, and then I would hear noises. I'd hear my name called quite a bit. Usually in a female voice. I'd be downstairs and I'd hear like a woman like lean over the rail and scream, my name. And I got to the point where I would hear it and I would just ignore it. So I was in there one day with a female friend of mine, and she really was. We were just friends. She worked at the neighboring bar, and she came in to say hi because she saw me in there to do the whatever. And she came in and knocked on the door, and I looked and I said, "Oh, hey, what's up?" She was a manager of a neighboring bar. And it was actually her and her friend. And so they both came in, and he went upstairs to use the bathroom. And he came running down the stairs, terrified out of his mind, because he said something grabbed his ankle. And there was a red mark on his leg. And his name was Jeremy. And I said, Jeremy, what, to describe, he calmed down, take a breath, And she was like, she's like, I just heard a woman say your name. And we were all out of the office area. you know, so I needed to go back in there. And she was like, I just heard a woman say your name. And I was like, that's not. So I had to literally explain to them, I'm like, look, this club is very haunted, and that's a female. That's not it. And it happens like all the time. And then sometimes it would trick my dog. Like if I had my dogs with me, I had both of them with me once, and my German Shepherd was a lot younger. And so when something was calling him upstairs, like he knew his name, he was trained. Like he ran up the stairs to go see what it was, and then he came down yelping, running down the stairs again. Something happened, and he ran and hid under one of the tables. And I was like, that's because there's something there. My other dog, now Ivan, the older one, the Mastiff, he knew better. Like when something would yell, I mean, he would sit there and he'd look up at, he'd be laying there with his head down, and he'd look up at me, and I'd look at him because I'd be at the desk, you know, and I would hear movement and stuff, and we would just, sometimes right above us, you would hear like that, like going, you know, on and on and on, and you're like, you know that that's not a person, you know what I mean? And the Twin Liquors guys would come in, you know, to you know, and you'd be doing the inventory, whatever, and they would hear it. And one of those guys had been doing the liquor order since before I'd ever started managing that place or helping with the management. And I was there with one of the managers, and he was trying to train me on how to do all this stuff because he was about to go on vacation. That's how it started for me, helping out and stuff. And it was in the 90s, and I just remember like him saying, he goes, this is one of the buildings I hate. The other one, he said, it used to be called Logan's at that time. I don't know what it's called now. But that one had, like, where you put the liquor in, there was a boarded up entrance that went to the underground tunnels below the city.
Wow.
And that building, that club, that bar is still there, but it's not called Logan's anymore. I don't know what it's called. But he said one time, because at one time they just had boards going across it before the people that renovated it decided to put a door, like a kind of it looked like a medieval type door you would see, like, and he said he got a little too close. His name was Tom, but he got a little too close to it one day, and he said something grabbed his shirt. He said that it was like he looked down and he saw his shirt like being pulled, like, and he was just in shock. And that's not at our club. That was at a different club. And he said, dude, I hated going to that bar because that would happen. And so he named like 4 places that were like the main spots that were haunted. And he said that ours was like one of the worst. Like he was like, he hated bringing the stuff in. He's like, as long as there was somebody there, and he didn't want to, you know, he said sometimes the manager would run upstairs to go do something, and he'd be down there by himself putting the stuff up. And he was like, he literally told them, he's like, I don't want to be down here by myself. Y'all don't leave me alone in this area. And so we would have to be there, you know, and like if he would go out to get the stuff, if something happened, you needed to go upstairs, we just have to wait, because if he came back and we weren't there, he would leave. So that's how bad it was. And so there was a lot of weird stuff that went on in that building. And there was one time in particular that I think maybe I had evidence of something there protecting me, because there was something, the first time it happened, when I heard something yell my name, I heard what sounded like somebody telling me no, like clear as day, you know, and I turned around and I was like, and like I said, I wanted to save all this because I don't know how healthy Eddie's going to get, if he's going to be able to ever do this. And so, you know, we just decided, you know, that maybe we're just going to talk about it. And so I turned around and there was nobody there, but I heard it and it sounded like a male. And the weird thing was that I called my mother that day and I asked her about it. And it was literally like a few days prior to the day that my uncle had died. It was about 3 or 4 days. So I thought it was really strange. And my mom had this weird, I don't know, like she had a very strong connection to that particular brother. Like one of her sisters and there were 6 kids. But one of her sisters and one of her brothers she was very close to. You know, and that particular brother was the closest in age to her. And when he died, she took it very hard. I think she was like 16 when he died. It was like a very traumatizing thing for her. She always remembered it because he was murdered. And the people that killed him were never found. And that was another thing that your mom's friend said. She's like, it never found them. But she said there were 3 men that were involved. And there were 3 suspects involved. And they were supposedly from Georgetown.
Yeah, it was really frightening to see her speak, and then just seeing like you have like this look of confusion at first, and then like slowly as she kept on speaking, and like we're really just my mom translating it, and you like listening to my mom, like you could tell like some of the blood was starting to go from your face. You're like, oh wow, like this was something that you never told any of us. Like not even I don't think Chad
I had
mentioned.
never told him that.
Yeah, like none of us knew anything about this. So like to see is just like the color kind of go from your face a little bit was like, oh, like it was. I don't know. It just kind of unnerved me because it was just like, oh wow, like someone knows that much about you.
And you remember my well, I would say my coach, probably. The same guy. I'm not going to say his name on here because, but he's the same guy that coached your stepdad for years. And he coached me at one time down in South Austin. And one of the things that he had a guy that was an Italian guy named Sal who worked with him. And he was a kickboxing instructor. And he came to me one day and he said, my wife sat in on the practice. We were doing practice, whatever. And there were fighters. They were trained. I was doing it just to get better at being able to fight and do whatever. I wasn't doing it at that time to do any of the MMA amateur stuff. I was just training. And his wife was there watching the training, and she said, this was, after my grandfather had passed. It was a few years after that. Several years, I guess, actually. And she said that I had two men that were actually moving through me and going in and out, like whatever. And she saw them. And when she described one, he described my mom's brother, Paul, to a T. And then the other one, she described to him as an older guy. And it was how I remembered my grandfather when he could still walk before he lost his leg. And I was just like, she said that she's like, you have that ability. Now, years later, and my brother can attest to this. He's the guy that helped bring my brother to Christ. This guy's name was David Soto. And I don't know whatever happened to him. If you're out there, David, I'd like to hear from you. I'll always be indebted to you help me bring my brother to Christ and get out of what he was doing. And one of the things that he said was that there were a couple of different spirits that were sort of like guardian. They were former human spirits, he said, and that they did protect me. And he said that that's a very real thing, and there are guardian angels. And he explained it to me, and he said that I had a very powerful guardian angel, and he said that I had two human spirits, one from each side of my family. And I asked him this, and this is a question I asked David. I said, David, do you, and my brother and me both asked him this, and I know Scorpion was there, and Squid too. And so he still, Squid still works downtown part-time at Darwin's, and he was there. And the question was posed, is it normal to have that kind of spirits, whatever? And he said, not necessarily. He's like, but you have two human spirits and one in particular that's not a human, but it's an angelic being. This is what he told me, And he said, thank you for that donation, Laura, and whoever else donated. Somebody else did earlier, too. I appreciate that. We appreciate it. And one of the things that says, being kind, new to the PRT family, and have not been disappointed. Keep up the great work, Josh. Thank you. And so it was just kind of like, the gist of what he was saying was that I had a lot of things to do, and that sometimes there are family spirits, and sometimes they will have one from each side of the family that agree. And this is what he said, that they agree to stay behind to help that particular person through their life. I don't know now so much if my grandfather's still with me, because I do feel like at one point he might have left. I don't know. But because I needed to get through that period of time in my life where there was a lot of violence, and I think that he was there for that to help me. And I think that it could be something where, if you're protected by Christ from these beings, these entities, which we all are, we have that ability. If these people, they're given a choice to stay behind, and I think it could be part of like a penance. I base that on a lot of different views and a lot of different beliefs from different cultures around the world. I was talking to a Filipino friend of mine because I had talked about on the show about the Philippines, and the more we talk about a place, the more that they come. I also grew up with a guy who was from Sri Lanka, and we talked. Not super recent, but several months back, and he believed that his uncle had followed him around, and he was a twin, and his twin died when he was 4, and he drowned. It was very weird. And he had somebody that he believed was following him for a long time, and that it was helping to protect him. And he believes that when his twin passed away, it became a second guardian. Because I do believe that whenever a twin passes away, and this is my true belief, I don't believe that they move on until that other twin passes on, because I think they share part of a soul matrix. I didn't just come up with that on my own. I didn't just go, you know what, that sounds like a good idea. I'm just going to believe in that. Because some idiots will say, well, that's just stupid. You're just making up all kinds of satanic mess, No, I'm not. I'm basing it on actual research. Something that you should be able to do, you people who are always starting mess, because you don't work, why don't they read?
Mhm.
Reading is fundamental.
That
you
takes
can't spell
work.
fundamental either. But they, instead of reading and researching, they just hate on us because we do the research. What's shocking to me, though, folks, is that I have 2 businesses, and you, Clough, have been here for a few days. You see how busy I am.
Yeah, you're very busy.
I stay busy, and I sleep 4 hours a day, and I still manage to do the show. I still manage to read what I need to read. I research. I spend a lot of time researching. In fact, Anthony, you come into my study, and most of the time I'm watching videos, learning videos. If I'm not doing that, I'm on the phone talking to people. And when you're having to, run businesses and make sure that everything's on the up and up, and you're having to talk to all these different people, and it's you don't have a lot of time. So I'm trying to do 2 or 3 things at one time, answering emails, and I'm looking, I'm running videos that are most of it's learning stuff, researching, studying, learning. If somebody wants to put something on my tombstone, I would tell them he was a student of life. That's what I would say. Because all I've done since I've been alive is try to learn. Just knowledge, just gain knowledge. That's all I want is knowledge. I want to be wise. I want to be smart. I want to be able to help people with that knowledge. It's not something you just do out of your own curiosity, but yes, that's part of it. But I also want to be able to teach others. Now, a lot of people have told me over the years, they come here to learn. I'm not a therapist, and I don't pretend to be. I'm not one of that's not my shtick. And my shtick is not, true, real, vetted stories, and whatever. That should go without saying. You shouldn't have to say that on your show. That should be a given right there. Okay. The other thing I'm going to tell you is there are people. Okay. One that calls himself guy from Texas. I'm not going to even say his whole handle. You know who you are. You were scummy enough to come to my conference and hug my wife, and then go and run up their butt and talk bad about me, and talk bad about all of us. He's a scumbag. Yes, you're a scumbag. And I'm going to say this, though, okay? As much time as you have on your hands to go around doing trolling and all the things you do, okay, why don't you stop doing that and stop being bitter and angry and attacking me and Abe and Bettina, and why don't you go and read, okay? Because you seem like you're from up there rather than from here, the way you act. I would say this, okay? You go to the conference, you don't even go and listen to people speak or learn anything. You're just there to act stupid. And there was a couple of knuckleheads that showed up at the conference and I didn't like. And I was nice. I didn't run them off. I didn't, Barton was nice to one of them, and I didn't say anything. I just was like, okay, I know these people are troublemakers. I know they are, and they've been saying things. But what I saw with them was they were just there to play around. Like, they didn't listen to anything or learn a damn thing. They were not interested, okay, in learning anything. Nothing. And they've spoken out against me in this whole situation that's going on, but they don't. But and I've told them both the same thing. I'm like, why didn't you shut your mouth and just go in there and sit down and learn something from all the various people that were there? You had Lance Hightower there. You had what's his name, Eddie Hill. You had
David
Weatherly. You had Chad Lewis. You had all these people with
Ron
these amazing presentations. You had Ron Moorhead. You had Barton Nunley. You had all these people, Martin Groves. Why did you not just shut your mouth and sit there and learn something? Instead, you were just there to act a fool, say you went to the conference so you could go and make up a lie. That's all you did. There's 2 of you. You know who you are. Actually, 3 if you count the female. That's all they did. So you're not invited to my next conference. I'm going to watch out for you, all 3 of you. Don't show up. You'll be escorted off the property because you didn't do anything. You didn't listen to anything. All you did was show up so you could, like, make a big mockery of it. And, you know, that's it. Now, these people don't have a show. I think JoJo's saying, no, it's not him. He didn't show up. These people, he showed up at my first conference. But these people didn't do anything. All they did was show up, and then they distracted by standing there talking while Bettina was talking by the door. And he's one of them is in, like, one of Barton's groups, you know, which, you know, I'm a admin there. But I told Barton, I was like, are you friends with this guy? Because I'm not. Because I'm not into people who aren't students of life. If you want to learn something, you know, learn it.
You know, I want to say this real quick. It's people like that show up, kind of ruins the experience for everybody else. I mean, the conference is there for us to, like, learn. But when you get troublemakers showing up and, you know, just making a mockery of it, you know, it ruins the experience for everybody else. But luckily, they didn't have that much of an impact.
No, they were just talking while the speakers were talking. You know, one of them brought a couple friends with them, and I never liked that guy. And I just went up to him and I said, are you here to, you know, cause problems? No. I said, okay, well then don't talk while we're talking.
And it's kind of weird they did it during Bettina's thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always something with her that they always go to kind of mess things up, you know.
Well, but then it spilled over into Martin's too, because they were there toward the end. And I told Barton, I was like, dude, these people, you know, he was being nice to him. He had no idea, and he gave him one of them his book, and I was just like, well, that was a waste of a book. He's probably not going to read it. And then, of course, they went on to cause problems in the group, and then they caused problems talking about the conference. That particular guy was only there on Sunday. I think he was there Saturday night for the after party, and then he came Sunday or something. And you know who you are, and we've never gotten along. And you know, I asked him the point blank at the after party. The first one was on Saturday or Friday night. No, Saturday night. Yeah. There was one on Saturday, one on Sunday. Saturday was in somebody's room, like the suite or whatever. And I didn't stay very long. And he was there, you know, and he was just he didn't speak to me, didn't look at me. So it's my conference. You come, you're disrespectful, you're rude, you know, and then. I mean, what are you there for? You don't watch my show, obviously, because you would learn something. I honestly think they don't want to learn. I think they're there to just troll. They're going to be NPCs till the day they die. They don't care. They don't care. And now anybody who will speak out or say anything against me or my friends, they'll go running over there. They just go. They can't help themselves. They just run to it like a moth to a flame. You know, I mean. Anytime somebody says anything, they pop up like meerkats looking around. Like, you know, oh, somebody say something about Josh Turner, let's go attack him. You're being puppeted, you know? Whether it's, you know, people realize it or not, there's these dark entities. There's this energy that you're swimming in. And I'm addressing you, guy from Texas and Mr. Berg, okay? I'm addressing you directly. And you're swimming in that soup. Next conference I have, don't show up. It'll be very bad for you. Very, very bad for you. I'm going to give you a criminal trespass notice. Okay? Don't want you there. Don't need you there. Don't come with you and your little friends and talk while people are talking and cause problems. We don't need you there because you're not there to learn. You're not there to learn. You're there to be buttholes. That's what you are. And also the big one, female. You. We know why you were there, okay? Stop pretending like you were there friendly with everybody because you weren't. You weren't friendly with me. Why go to a conference hosted by me if you've always hated me, as you said? If somebody had a conference and I always hated that person, why would you go? I don't care if they had, you know, every president that's ever lived and the King of Siam and Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan there. I don't care. That person that throwing the conference isn't. We're not cool. So why would I bother showing up?
Don't forget, your biggest fans are usually your haters.
Well, these people aren't fans of mine. They hate my guts.
But they can't
They've
stop watching
literally
you.
said on there, like, I hate this guy's guts. Like, literally, they've said that.
But
Like,
they'll continue to watch you and all that,
well,
just
because
giving you
they want to
views.
be where everybody else is at,
Mhm.
but they don't like me. It's like you want to go where everybody's learning, but you hate the teacher. Well, if you hate me, don't show up. And don't show up in my chat. And don't even show yourself in the chat. I'm going to boot you right out. And you don't have a voice. Not anywhere around me, you won't have a voice. Okay? Because you don't deserve one. Okay? One of them made the statement from the first conference. Guy from Texas. You know who you are. You've been after Bettina forever. Trying to instigate with me and Marvin. Thing is, you know who you are, and you did it at the first conference. At the first conference, he said a bunch of crazy crap and started stuff between me and Abe. Let me tell you something. They're so mad that me and Abe are friends. Like, oh, well, they were fighting at once. Who cares? Some of my best friends, we didn't start out as friends because people may not understand, and people may not trust me until they learn who I am and what I am. I'm a generous person. I'm a very kind person. I'm a loving person. I'll give you the shirt off my back, literally. I got another, no problem. I'll give you a shirt. I don't care. And if it was my last shirt, I'd give it to you, and I'd go get another. I'd go buy another. I'm that guy. So why, having never done anything to you, would you try to do what you're doing to me unless you have something wrong with you? I'm going to go out on a limb here, right, and say that you guys have something wrong with you. These entities that you are, you're letting them puppet you and control you. Because all I ever see them do is go after good people. I don't ever see them go after the gnarly, crappy, garbage pail people. Never. You just go after people who are doing good and trying to work in this community and trying to come up with answers. They are literally the flesh and blood NPC trolls. And I think that spiritual entities have a strong influence on these people and in their lives, and I think that negative energy exudes from them. Just like back in the day, we would get people that would come to work at our bar. They were attracted to it, like moss to a flame, because they knew that our bar had a lot of problems, a lot of fights and a bunch of stuff, a lot of gang activity. Like always, you didn't know who was who. Sometimes they'd come in there and they weren't allowed to wear their colors in there, but you didn't know, so you'd have to figure out who was affiliated with who. And these people were just attracted to it. They came in there just to cause problems, because they knew Roxy had all the fights. So they were just, they had a bloodlust, and that's what they wanted. And they would instigate. And those dark spirits in there would manipulate them. I'd see it. I'd watch it happen. And then you'd have to try to head it off at the pass, and then, God has a purpose for people. And then there's some people, the devil has a purpose for them. And I believe that's why you're born. I believe those kind of people, they're born beyond redemption. I don't care what anybody says. I argued with a Christian the other day, and she was like, oh, no, everybody can be redeemed. I'm sorry, but that's not true. Now, if Christ so, ordained it, yes. If God said, yes, these people can be redeemed through my son, yes, it can be done. But God's going to let you do what you're going to do. And I think there's a big component that's being left out of religion and our knowledge. And as long as these people, they only believe in the Schofield King James Version of the Bible, which is another mistake, because they don't understand the Bible. And then they believe literal translations, which cannot be, you can't do that, because what ends up happening, the Bible was written in Aramaic, Greek, and Hebrew. Do you speak those languages? If you don't speak those languages, you probably don't know what it says, because it doesn't translate to English. It doesn't. It's the truth. It doesn't translate. And then they want to preach up there on their shows from their pulpit. How are you going to preach to me? Let me ask you a question, Mr. Big Boy over there in the swamp. Like, how are you going to tell me about the Bible all the time, quoting scriptures, when you don't know the Bible? You know the King James Version, and you know what gets people's goats, because everybody in this country believes a certain way. Not everybody, but a large percentage of them. And he knows what gets people fired up. He knows how to play on your emotion. That's what these people do. An evil spirit can tell you the Bible front and back. What this evil spirit's not going to do is give you any further information, because then that would be to their detriment. Because there are a lot of books out there that weren't in the Bible. Now, if you want to know about these, pray for discernment. It's not that hard. People get caught up in what is real, what is not. And I'm going to tell you this, and I had this conversation with Bettina a couple of days ago, and if she's in the chat, God bless you. You know this is true. I told you this. Don't get caught up in the minutia. Remember one thing. Christ said the only way to the Father is through him. And the only way to heaven is through the Father. It's very simple. When you pray so that you know who you're praying to, the only thing you got to remember, and this is how I'm going to tell you to pray, and this is what works. You pray like this. You pray, God, I come unto you in the name of Christ. Now, you can always add your Son and my Lord and Savior in there. And then you say your prayer. And at the end, you say, it will be done if it is your will. Your will be done. Because people pray for a lot of things, okay? But if it's God's will, what you pray for happens. If not, then it doesn't happen. And you leave it at that. You don't have to repeat yourself 1,000 times. Okay? And God knows your heart. But say it with the mouth. Confess it with the words. Your words have power. I tell people all the time, this is a very simple, basic thing. And it does wonders. It dispels all kinds of stuff. I was talking to David. He's a friend of mine, David Cladd. And we were talking. He sent me some voice messages about alien abduction cases that were stopped by people praying through Christ. It works. It really does. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Then I'm going to get a guest on here that's going to tell his story. His story is probably going to take about half an hour. It's not a real long thing, but it is pretty crazy, intense to me. I want to hear it being told on the show. Here's what I'm going to tell you. There was a friend of mine, okay, not from here. He was from another country. He was like from, I forgot the Caribbean. It'll come to me in a minute here. Dang it. Tobago. I want to say Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago. But yeah, but it was one place in particular. Anyways. He's from the Caribbean. Area, yeah. Well, he was from the Caribbean. He lived in Puerto Rico, but he's not Puerto Rican. At one time, he lived in Puerto Rico, and he married a Puerto Rican woman when he came to the States. Anyways, I met him years ago, and I actually had a conversation with him when I was in Florida, and that was 2004 or something like that. And anyways, I was there on vacation visiting some friends, and we were down in Miami, and we met on the beach, and some friends of ours, we were all hanging out in a group, and they got to know some friends of theirs, and we all hung out, and it was a beautiful place, a beautiful beach, whatever. And so we were talking, and we in Tortuga, that may be it right there. I think that's it. But like I said, he lived in Puerto Rico because he had a job there working at a rum distillery. And so I told him, I said, if you ever decide to relocate, come to Austin, I'll give you a job, and you can work at the club until you find something else. And he did. He actually showed up at the club and found another job. His name was Jaime or Jamie, but we just called him Jamie because my boss was like, he was Arabic, and he just said Jamie, and that was it. And even though he said, whatever, he didn't care. He just called him Jamie. And so one of the things that he worked for us for a little while, and one of the things he told me was when he was young, he had an out-of-body experience. And here's what's crazy. Like when he had his out-of-body experience, he ended up in the club. Like we worked at. He was like, dude, I was like coming out of my body, and I just took off. I shot off like a rocket. He goes, and then I looked down and I saw 6th Street and I saw the Roxy. He comes down, and he had told me this story before when I was thinking about talking about the club, and just going over some of the stories that had happened there. I spent a lot of Halloweens at that club. He came down through the roof, and when he came down through the roof, he saw 4 distinctly different beings moving around. There was a 3-level dance club. Upstairs, there was this one particular being that he said looked like a spider. And then on the 2nd floor, he saw these 3 beings that looked like they were pale, like wraith-looking creatures, the way he described them. Human-like. One was definitely female. And when he went down to the bottom floor, he saw 2 more. One was hovering around near the door, and it was like red and black. And then he saw one toward the back of the club that hung out in the very back, and he said that one was black and it looked like death. He literally said, they said it looked like the Grim Reaper. And he said that one saw him and began to float towards him, and he just got terrified. And he said it felt like something yanked him, and the next thing you know, he woke up like he was falling, and he woke up in his body. And when he went over it with me, he went in depth about, like what they looked like. Each one was distinctly different. They had their own little area where they hung out in. And when he was telling me that psychic, the Hungarian lady, she had it pegged, like every spot that he mentioned. That's exactly what that was. What did he do about those beings, Samuel? He didn't do anything. He just saw them, and when one of them went toward him, he got out of there. But he was telling me very, very, very fearful. He was very fearful, and for days on end, he would see things in the mirror, and he would be like sitting in his on his bed talking to his girlfriend on the phone or something. And then he would look and he would see something like moving around in his room, and then he saw things go through the wall. Well, one of these, the human-looking creatures that looked kind of like what he described them, he used the word wraith, literally. He said one of them looked like this weird-looking female-type being with these nasty-looking teeth. He woke up to something biting his foot, and he thought it was his wife's cat, or not his wife at that time, but his girlfriend's cat, because they had recently started living together, and the cat would bite him because the cat did not like him. And he said it was a mean orange cat, male, and, was just
a little turd.
He was like, that is not, he argued with her all the time. It needs to be neutered. Nope. She's going to let it be, whatever. And it was just a horrible cat. And he was just like, she didn't want to hurt it. So she just let it hurt him, right? So it bit him. It bit him on his foot. And so he wakes up and he flings his foot. And what he sees is not that cat. It is this woman with these weird-looking, as he called them, piranha teeth. And he spoke pretty good English. He went to an English school when he was younger, so he learned how to read, write in English and everything. And his dad was actually from America. His dad was actually Cuban American. His mother was from either Tortuga, the island, or it was Tobago, one of those with the T. I can't remember which one, but anyway, his dad made it a point to put him in an English-speaking school, and then he lived in Puerto Rico for a long time, where Puerto Rico is almost like another state of the United States. It's a protectorate. So anyways, he spoke pretty good English, and he said, dude, this is, he recently when we talked, he was talking about wanting to write about some of the spiritual encounters he had. That was not the first time he had left his body. He said that was the second time. But since then, he'd learned how to do it on a regular basis. But he said that it scared the crap out of him because the apartment he was living in, it turned out that there had been a murder there. Well, the apartment he lived in, when he talked to the manager, she acted like she didn't know anything, but she talked to her boss and found out, yeah, somebody had been killed there 10 years before. He didn't see a human-like entity in that apartment, ever. What he saw was a black figure. A couple years later, his wife got married. Before they moved out of that place, she had a friend come over, and she told her, somebody died here, but their soul is not here. The person that killed the person was never found. The person that died there, it wasn't their spirit. The spirit that was there was the spirit that caused it. Now think about that. She said it was a black, shadowy-looking entity. This other thing that attacked him, he asked about that, and she said, no. This woman, who was also a psychic, told him, she's like, no, that's something that followed you when you were out of your body. Which makes sense because that was something he saw at the club. Now, in the early 2000s, this is after this had happened to him, right? When I would go to the club to work, I no longer heard a female spirit calling my name. So that spirit, I believe, followed him. And so he wakes up, and this thing is biting his foot. And his foot, it's not the feeling or something. No, his foot was bleeding. His foot was bleeding. And Jamie woke up and he was like, what the heck? And he looks and he thinks it's the cat. Cat's name was Garfield because it's a big fat orange cat. And he flung his foot thinking it was going to be this, whatever. And this thing rose up. And there was no waist. He didn't see anything from the waist down. It was just like a torso and a woman's face, woman's head. And it was white, pale, purplish white. And it came right toward him and came over him and was hovering over him. And he said it smelled like death, like rotting meat. And so recently he told me that story. And I was going to tell it on the Halloween show. But, you guys saw we had a full plate on that one. So we decided we would tell some spooky ones on here tonight, which we're going to do. But now we're going to move you towards a guess. What's up? What do you need?
I actually have a question to ask you.
Denied. Go ahead. Let's get going.
Yeah, we got things to do.
The cult leader has spoken.
No question.
I need to wear my mask.
If you just write it in a little form, we'll take it in 3 to 7 business days.
Sometimes it could take up to 2 to 4 weeks. We're about as efficient as the post office.
We're a little backed up.
Go ahead.
Well, this is a question I have because it's going by an experience that I went through. Why is it in some of these stories that you're telling, people can see these spirits, but there's if in my case I was experiencing some sort of weird haunting, but I didn't see it. So why is it that there are some that could appear and you can see them either half their body or a full body apparition, but others you don't? Is there like a...
It's hard to say because it's one of those things about like, oh, why do you keep seeing Bigfoot after your first encounter? It's like, are you the cause of you being able to see spirits, or is it the spirit the cause that is the spirit strong enough to it's able to manifest itself in front of you, or are you some kind of special, a little bit special, so that you're able to see these things clearer? Because I had a theory way back then about how maybe it's us that are more sensitive to certain things, and it's not everybody. Not every person is going to be as sensitive, and it might have something to do with, back in the day when we were all tribal and we were living in these small villages, the village head, the tribal leader, he had to be the most sensitive, the most aware, the most, when hunting parties and everything else like that, he had to be the one that was most aware of danger. And the same had to go for women, because they had to be most aware to be able to take care of the children at the home, or be able to be aware of anything incoming while the men were away. If that is then passed on to his son, and his son becomes the next tribal leader, that sensing, that awareness of danger becomes heightened. It keeps getting trained until then eventually becomes to a point where maybe these things, these certain people are able to just sense things that you wouldn't be able to, because it's been trained over who knows how many generations. Now, this is just a theory about like why maybe some humans are able to see spirits more clearly than others. It just might be that you don't have any of that bloodline, that inherent genetic training that was done. But it's like, that's just an excuse that I would make if I had a guess, or like come up with something. But honestly, it's like you don't know. It could be in anything, really.
Because the one experience that I had, this is part of one of the later ones that I had. It was in San Antonio. I was staying at a friend's house, and I was just going up there to visit, hanging out with him, and I stayed on his couch. And I thought it was weird because it happens in like clockwork for some people, like the hauntings and stuff. It happened around 3, and he always told me his apartment was haunted, but I never believed it, because as I was there, throughout the day and most of the night, nothing happens. But at 3, it's got a little freaky. I was actually laying down on the couch. I was falling asleep, and I felt something like it woke me up. And it was weird because it was like something was coming in from this side, and it was like penetrating me through it was going inside me. I felt it like inside me right here in the side. Like it was just weird. It was like a weird feeling. And I got up. I just kind of like, okay, what was that? I woke up. I was just looking around. Nothing. And I'm just there. I'm like, all right. Got on my phone, started watching like random YouTube videos. And then it happened again. But I'm awake. And it started, like, it just freaked me out. And the more I just kind of laid there, because I mean, I'm kind of lazy. So it's not like I was going to get up and leave. And leave where? So I just stayed on the couch. My friend eventually woke up. And I told him, you know what, dude, I'm going to go sleep in the other room. Because he has, his apartment is weird. So it's like he has 2 rooms that look like 2 living rooms. So I thought I would just go sleep in the other room in his small little couch that he had. It was uncomfortable, but I'd rather stay there than to be there in the other room by myself. As I was like just laying there, and I was messaging my girlfriend. Well, at the time now, now she's my wife, but at the time she was my girlfriend. So she can attest to all the stuff that was going on. I was messaging her, telling her like all the stuff that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
This thing will play with my hair. It freaked me out. It will start like just slowly, or not slowly, but just like lightly touch my hair, and I could feel it. And I would cover myself up. But the thing is, it will get really hot, so I will uncover myself. And every time I uncover myself, it will start playing with my hair. And it just, oh my God. And I always turn around, I look around, nothing's there. But I'm laying back down again, and I could not sleep. Everything stopped at around 4:15. Like, I mean, 4:15. I mean, I believe my wife still have those messages, so it will be around. It was after 4, but that was it. That was only within that time frame between 3 and 4 that all this stuff started happening. And then after that, I was able to go to sleep without any issue whatsoever. So my thing is, I didn't see it. And I don't know. To me, I think not being able to see it is a little bit more freakier too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought I want to throw that in there because that's, to me, that was a lot scarier than the other experiences I had.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. And who knows? It might be that you're sensitive enough to feel things and maybe not see anything.
I mean, I got a bunch of other like smaller stories too.
Mm-hmm.
And a real quick one I could throw in there. Seems like I'm always on somebody's couch, but in my friend's couch, this is where this is back home. So I was staying at my friend's house and staying in his couch, and it was my first night there. I'm just there. I'm on my phone. I hear behind me. It was on his door, and I was sleeping in the living room. I turn around. There's nobody there. But here's the thing. It's a small little house. His kids will sleep in the living room, across from the couch. So what I did is I turned on my phone light. I panned around to see, like, is it one of the kids?
Mm-hmm.
The kids were asleep. And when I had looked around and see that there was nothing going on, it's always something weird in that house. That house always seems to be like haunted or something. It was always weird. It was always one thing or another. You hear voices. My friend said he heard me call him out when he was like in the restroom. And then when I will stay there sometimes at night, since I'm a truck driver, so I mean I don't really had a place at that time. I'll bring out my gaming laptop and I'll just game at night. Even at night, it's always those 3 knocks.
Is it around the same time?
I can hear it through, and here's another thing. I can hear it through the headset. I mean, there's like this big headsets, and I couldn't really hear anything. But even with those headsets on, I can hear those 3 knocks. And I don't know, just freaky. And then supposedly that whole neighborhood is all haunted. Supposedly there was a kid down the street had just committed suicide. Just hunged himself. And the story behind that was that the mom just went to the store real quick just to get something. And she got back, he was hanging there in the garage.
Oh man.
And it was, I don't know why that happened, but apparently there's just things that happen in that neighborhood that no one knows why it happens. Even the neighbor across the street will talk about like the random knockings he will have, and it will be either in the front of his house and then it will go to the back of his house.
There are neighborhoods like that where there will be activity, and you'll see like a pattern, where people will see ghosts, cryptids, and even UFOs, like balls of light, things like that in neighborhoods. We've interviewed people, all three of us, where they've told us all kinds of crazy stuff, man. And they'll have certain neighborhoods, or they'll tell us a story, especially if it's local. And when they tell us the neighborhood they live in, we all look at each other like, okay, yeah, we've because we've gotten stories from those neighborhoods before. Do you want to tell anything else?
No, I have other smaller ones, but that's fine.
Yeah, I just talked to our guest, and he said you're on a roll. So he just
Well-
literally, I messaged him, and he said, I said, do you want him to continue, or do you want to come on? He said, sure, he's on a roll. He says this guy is great. This guy is Chris Clough, folks.
You see him in the chat all the time.
Yeah, go ahead if you want to continue.
If I had to recommend something, I would say like maybe buy a love couch or a recliner. Just stay away from couches. Like it obviously isn't your thing to be sitting on a couch.
And then when I'm home, now that I'm with my wife, and now I get the couch treatment too.
What?
You made that comment.
Hey, Laura, he's talking crap about you.
Please don't tell my wife. Is she watching?
Yeah, she
Yeah,
is.
she just. I think she donated.
I think
didn't
she donated. There's been 2 donations. She was one of them. You didn't notice that?
What?
Wow. Hey, Shane, what's going on, folks? Shane from West Coast Dogman Project. We got to do a show together, too, Shane. Like I said last night on Blondes and Booze, I really only do shows that I know. And if I get
I
to
still
know
have to
somebody,
come over
that's fine. I get to know them. But if I don't know you, it's kind of like I don't really.
I donate Chris to y'all. That's what Laura said.
I donate. Well, he's a good donation. He's handy.
As long as you got a couch, I
He
guess
helps
I'm good.
out, Well, we have that reclining love seat you could stay at, and that's pretty comfortable.
That's fine.
Yeah,
It is pretty comfortable.
yeah, and so one of the things that I wanted to say too before we go to our guest, and like I said, the guest has got a story to tell. There is a lot of weird activity. There is a neighborhood. And you know what? We're gonna say what we're gonna do that for another show. Weren't we?
Yeah, because I thought we were
Okay,
waiting on that one.
There's a neighborhood though, in one of the towns I used to live in when I was a kid, and we've talked to 4 different people that grew up there. And it wasn't necessarily my neighborhood. It was like a neighborhood on the other side of town from where we lived. Our neighborhood was fine, and the kids over there were like, "You don't have weird stuff coming through," and we're like, "No, we're normal. Our neighborhood's peaceful." My friends were like, "Yeah, you're messed up.
Oh, we're
We
the
don't
best
know
ones.
why you're having shadow people crawl through the wall. We're normal over here. I don't know what you're doing over there, but." It's like, you mean your mom and dad didn't beat you and choke you? No, my mom and dad loved me. I don't know what happened to you. I'm sorry,
You and
I was the
Keith-
one that was like doubting. I'm like, sure, they didn't hit you with a water hose. Yeah, right. This kid's lying, dude. Everybody's
You and
parents do
Keith
that.
were probably the biggest menaces around that neighborhood.
No, it was we had our own little clique,
Yeah.
and then we had Dennis's weird dad who was always like saying weird stuff or whatever. And I made you a sandwich with everything and nothing on it.
Oh, great. Thanks. What?
What's wrong with you, dude? His excuse for everything was Vietnam. Okay, I get it, but at some point you have to stop using that as a crutch, or people will use the death of a family member, and that's sad. But they'll
Yeah.
use that for every misdeed they ever do. If my mom hadn't died, I wouldn't have killed 86 people. Jeez, man. So you made your mother proud. That's awesome. Just
Just like going to the gym or something? Like a normal person?
Become an alcoholic.
turn it inward and just do it to yourself instead of
Yeah.
everybody around you. Yeah, you always hear these criminals when they're in jail, they're behind bars, and they're always missing teeth for whatever reason, one way or the other, either fights or meth. And they're over there like, yeah, if my mom hadn't died, I probably wouldn't stab them people in the head 100 times. That's what did it. It just drove me over the edge, and I just had to go kill everyone.
Oh, did your mom die a violent death? No,
Oh, they'll be like-
she died in her sleep, and it
Very
hurt me a
peaceful.
lot.
She was 86. And then there's always that one who's like remorseful. Yeah, I wish my mama wouldn't, had died, because then that wouldn't have happened. I'm like,
She could have stopped me from murdering all those people.
it sounds like you were determined to do it regardless of whether or not that person did or did not pass away.
Sounds like you were just waiting for them
Yeah,
to
you're
pass
waiting
away.
for an excuse. Well, I think war does that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll bring people out that are already psychopaths.
Oh,
My Uncle
definitely.
Frank was in Vietnam. Actually, I have cousins and uncles on both sides are in Vietnam, and they talk about, like being around absolute psychopaths. I mean, that really relished and enjoyed what they were doing, and they were just there because they had to get drafted. They didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then these people over there, like, yeah, I'm here to do this, because they want to do that. And I think some of them probably do it and not even get paid for it. I mean, there's certain people like that. And I've been I've been to a lot of military bases and prisons and things like that. And now I wasn't in prisons, but I've been to them, and like I've felt bad energy. I went to visit my uncle in prison a couple times, and I felt like there was always something around, like just bad, dark energy. But anyway, so here we go. Let's get the guest on here and let him tell his amazing story, an encounter that he had with something. This should be good. And thank you to people that donated, by the way. And then don't forget the Patreon. We have the Patreon. My email address is up here, Josh Turner, POTpodcast.com and Patreon.com. $10 through $50 tier. And I believe this coming week we're going to try and nail it down and get those mail-offs finished for the new people, too. There's a few people, too, that said they haven't gotten stuff, and I don't know why that is, because a couple of you, I checked, and it did get mailed. I don't know why it didn't show up, but we'll take care of that if anybody's owed anything. And at the very least, if we can't get to you something and you're from another country or something, we'll give you credit so you can go to the store and buy whatever. And if you're in England, I can have Paul Sinclair, a good colleague, friend, and ally of mine. He can send you a book, so we can work that out. He's got his project. Don't forget Wolflands. It's on Amazon. Good friend of mine, Paul Sinclair. Great guy. You got it? Okay. That's all you got to do. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's right there. It's right there. Right, the second one. It's kind of quiet on my end here. Is it quiet to y'all?
No. The first now.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Hit the second.
Hello.
Hey, Gil.
Hey, how you doing, Josh?
Good. So, folks, this is Gil Sanchez. You want to introduce yourself, what you do, who you are, let people know?
My name is Gil Sanchez. Presently, I do armed security for a large hospital out here in Florence, South Carolina. Prior law enforcement, I was a sheriff's deputy for 14 and a half years in Trinidad, Colorado, county of Los Animas, which is the very southeastern corner of Colorado. It's like 17 miles short of the New Mexico state line.
Yeah. And is that where this incident happened? Where it took place?
Yes.
Okay.
This incident actually took place back in 2006 while I was out on patrol. I was working swing shift when at that time we're working 410s. I was patrolling out east of our in our county, in our town, in a small area. Area is called Honey, Colorado, and it's just a really small area. I mean, it's just I mean, if you ran past it and blinked, you'd miss it. Anyway, it had a very large school there that runs from kindergarten to 12th grade. And like I said, I was on a routine patrol that night. And I want to say it was probably between probably 10, 11 o'clock at night. Stopped and patrolled the area and went around the school and checking all the doors, making sure everything was secured. And then I was making my way back to the office. There's a small road, well, one of the main roads that goes into that little area there. And I was headed back. I was headed west, and there's a small bridge that hooks to the right, right over some train tracks. Right before that bridge, there's a small, well, like I said, there's a small bridge, and I'm doing like 45, 50 miles an hour, I'm just headed straight back, and I see something out of the corner of my left eye, and it's in a full stride. Comes right in front of my vehicle, and I hit this thing. I mean, I center punch this thing dead on. I hit it so hard, Josh. I mean, this thing literally lifted my unit up on two wheels, and I could feel both tires go over it, and I could feel it scrape on the undercarriage of the vehicle. When I'm driving a Durango at this time, and I'm figuring, man, the whole front of my unit's totaled. Anyway, once the front end, once the vehicle sets down, I hit the brakes. I slam on the brakes. I must have skidded for at least 25, 30 feet. And I'm just in shock because I got a real good look at what I saw before I hit it. And what I saw is, I'm not even sure how to describe it, except it was a Goatman. Oh, I want to say it was probably about between 3.5, 4 feet tall. Had the upper body of a man, and I'll swear the lower half of it was just like a goat. It had the hind legs of a goat.
Wow.
It had a human face, sharp features, and it had horns. And the one thing that just totally threw me off completely is it had the reddest eyes I've ever seen. I mean, these things are like blood red. And I'm thinking, I was just total in total shock. I was like, I don't know what I saw. I don't know what I hit. I'm sitting here in my unit, thinking I just totally destroyed the whole front end of my car. Anyway, I get out, and I go to the first thing I do is I get out of the unit. I go to the front of the vehicle to see the damage. And there isn't a mark on the vehicle. Not a single mark on that vehicle. So
Did you find any blood?
Nothing, not a thing. And I hit. I mean, I center punched this thing. I mean, I hit it dead on. Anyway, I'm figuring, I hit this thing, and this thing's either got to be severely injured or dead on the side of the road. So I walk back up away from my unit, and I'm looking to see if, I pull my flashlight, and I'm just looking to see if there's anything, on the side of the road that, that I hit. There isn't anything on the side of the road, but then I hear something rustling in the field on the other side of a barbed wire fence. And it's walking upright on 2 feet. So I pull my weapon out, and I make my way back to my unit. And I'm thinking, I have a 9mm, and I'm thinking, this is dumb. I just hit it with a Durango, and I have a 9mm. So I just make my way back to my unit, get in my unit, and I make my way back to the office. And I stood in my office the rest of the shift. I didn't go anywhere. The
Yeah, I can
following day,
imagine.
yeah,
Like, you just
the one thing that just totally threw me off was just the fact that this thing, it looked right at me right before I hit it. And like I said, it had the reddest eyes I'd ever seen. And it had this sneer on its face. I don't know. It was just really creepy. The best way I could describe it would be like that character, was it Mr. Timnus in the Chronicles of Narnia?
Yeah, that's kind of what I imagined when you first told me this.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what it looked like. But anyway,
what color was the fur? Or I mean,
it
like
was it was like a darkish brown, blackish brown. I mean, that's probably the best way I could describe it. And Yeah, but it had an upper body of a human, and I mean this thing was jacked. I mean it had very broad shoulders. I mean for as small as it was, I mean this thing was it was pretty wide at the shoulders. But anyway, the following day, I have a buddy that worked for the police department, and I told him what I had saw. When he's always been into the paranormal type stuff, and my unit, it was a take home unit. He literally crawled underneath my unit. He inspected the entire unit. He crawled under the unit, and he told me, he says, you didn't hit anything. He said, there's not even any scrapes, there's no fur, there's no blood, there's nothing wrong with your unit. There's no marks of anything that you made contact with. There was nothing there. And
what color was it, Gil?
Like the skin color.
Well, the skin, the fur. What did it look like?
The fur was, the fur was like a blackish brown, and I'd say the skin tone it had was almost like a grayish color, I'd say.
Mm. Mm. And so, and this thing, it had like because we communicated about this story. You never told me, but I read your message. We messaged back and forth about this story. So I read what you had told me, but it's been a while since we discussed it. And so this creature that you hit, did it look evil? I mean, did you get a weird feeling from it or anything like you can say?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the look it had on its face when it looked at me, like I said, it looked, it looked at me like it could see right through me, and it had this sneer on its face, almost like telling me, yeah, you could see me type of thing. But I mean, it was just talking about, just gives me the chills. It had the most evil grin I've ever seen. I mean, this thing was, it was not nice.
And when you hit this, what year was it?
It was 2006.
Was there a camera that saw it or picked it up or anything like
that? Cameras in our unit for our county were non-existent.
Oh.
Yeah, we're talking,
especially in 2006. I mean, and there's poorer counties in particular aren't going to have certain things like that.
Yeah, our county
now they all do, but I mean,
yeah, it's like our county was, I want to say, probably like 4,700 square miles, and there was like 2 deputies per shift.
And where this happened was Colorado, technically.
Yeah, it was east of Trinidad, Colorado, of our town. It was out east.
Well, what do you think it was? I mean, like, in your opinion, if you had to put your, somebody said you have to tell us what you think it was, what would you say?
I went back and forth trying to figure this thing out, and I talked to my mom before she passed, and she had it in the back of her head that it was probably a demon. I can't really say exactly what it was. I want to say it was physical because I felt when I hit it. It was physical when I hit it. But for it to leave 0 marks, it just
anything, yeah.
Nothing. I mean, it just vaporized. That is like totally beyond me.
Do you think that maybe it was there waiting for you, or do you think you chanced upon it?
I don't know. I want to say, the way it was running, it was like I want to say it was trying to just run right across the roadway where I was at. But when I made contact with it, it was like, it was literally there for me to see it. And I don't know why.
And it didn't bleed, but it was a physical thud that you hit, right?
Right. Yeah. And there was no fur, no blood, nothing. It was like after making contact, like it vanished from where it got hit. And it was all of a sudden in a field walking or running through a field.
I've had people tell me before. In fact, we have a guy that works for us who claims to have hit what he can only describe as like a little duende-looking creature.
I mean, Scorp?
No, I'm talking about Kenny.
Oh.
But and what he saw was it was like a little duende. I mean, it had to be because it didn't look like a human. It was just a small little, like what you said. This thing though, I think was about 2.5 foot tall, and there was a dent in the car, but the next day there was no dent, and they looked around. It was open field, and wherever this thing was, it was not there. They couldn't find it. They couldn't see it. The next day there was no damage to the car. I mean, it was a weird, very bizarre thing. And then also, what was his name? Ernest.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we interviewed him, and he was talking about the story where his friend worked with the little thing that was running on camera, and it would slap and make noises and stuff in the warehouse where they worked, and they caught a glimpse of something like a streak on the camera, but there was no like physical presence, but it could make noise and could hit things. See, that's the thing. I talk to people all the time, and one of the things that people have told me over the years is that they've had like all kinds of encounters with beings that are somewhere between like physical and spiritual. And then, like we can literally come out of our bodies and be spirits because that's what we are ultimately, but we can also go into our body and then be physical. We detach from our bodies, I think, like not even willingly a lot of times. It just happens. Mm-hmm. So that being said, we can do that. Why can't they? Except that they're probably better at it because they're more in their natural state, in a spirit state. They're used to it. And they can probably craft a corporeal body the longer. That's not even my theory. That was Linda Godfrey's theory before she passed. That was kind of something that she had said. And, I talked to her, multiple times. And then it was something that I went over with David Weatherly, who is a good friend of mine, and also Barton. And Barton and I talked to Linda about it. We all talked to her about it and had different, conversations that kind of led us down the road of what we think these things are. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to speak for David Weatherly, but I can speak for David because I've talked to him many times, and I can tell you right now, he believes like I do, like Linda does. Barton, same way. I mean, we believe the same way. The only thing is, I saw Barton's show earlier. If anybody was watching his show, I think he's going to do great with the live streams. I think he's going to get the hang of it and that guy's talented.
Yeah.
Everything he does, he's good at it. I mean, everything he does, he's good at it. And so I think he's going to do really well. He's like Lyle. Him and Lyle and Ken can all play guitar. They all write books, and they can all do
Barton draws.
They're great speakers. They're great talkers. They're great. They're just whatever they want to do, they can do. They're very multi-talented people. So I'm just giving them kudos for that. I can't play an instrument to save my life. Everybody in my family can play one, but me. I'm like. And people ask me, what was your skill? Well, I can talk, and I was a pugilist. Other than I cannot do the instruments. I can't play piano. It was always a dream of mine to play piano or guitar. At some point, you have to go, dream another dream. This dream is over. And then you just have to move on into whatever you're good at. And mine was a pugilist specialist, and then I was also good at the spoken word, which I'm not bad at the written word now, I guess. I'm not too bad. But, I'm not as talented as some people. Do what?
You got 2 books.
Yeah, and thank God, though, that I had good friends that were like, don't put that in there. but those same friends, I will say, 4 of you, you know who you are. Like Redfern, you're I'm not gonna say people's names. I'm kidding your heart, but y'all told me to put a chapter in that book that would have been very, very controversial. And then later on, me and Kim were talking about it, and Kim was like, "You still should have put it in there. You would have sold more." I was like, but I would have been in knee deep in crap. And it's real easy for him and Barton and Nick to say that because they're not the ones that are going to have to take the heat. Of course, Redford, he's like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, put it. That's awesome. I love that part." And I'm like, "I do too, but I don't want to be like, get the hammer come down on me from some agency because I said things I probably shouldn't have said that even though they're true, probably shouldn't have said that because then they're gonna be like, I don't need some X-Files crap, people. I just don't. I'm sorry." So when this happened to you, Gil, like, before that, did you believe anything? Did you heard any stories of anything? after that, did it make you a firm believer in this, or did you still have to
Well,
get smacked again by something, or?
prior, growing up in that area right there, it's because Trinidad, it used to be a real promising mining town. It always has been a coal
But that's
mining
funny.
town.
You just said Trinidad.
Mhm.
Trinidad. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out if it was Trinidad, Tobago, or Tortuga. Where my
Yeah, we told an earlier story.
yeah.
We were trying
I
to figure
messaged
out.
him. I was waiting for him to message me back.
I
So,
was listening to that.
that's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And you just said Trinidad, and I didn't even know that was the. But go ahead.
Yeah, it was a huge mining town. I mean, way back in the day. But there was always, I remember growing up, always hearing about stories of people seeing the Goatman. The miners would be going out, while on the way to work early in the mornings, and there was a couple of them that actually saw it. But I never thought anything of it. But the other thing that kind of sparked, a little bit of curiosity too, dealing with this was there is a huge, um, how can I say this? There's a lot of witchcraft that goes on in that town, especially out in that area. Because I remember getting a call out there. My partner and I, we went out there, and because they said, well, there's a bunch of trash out here, out in the field. You might want to take a look at it and see, who it belongs to. So we go out there on the call, we go take a look at it. Wow, what we find is a makeshift altar with candles and pentagrams and all kinds of interesting stuff like that.
Oh. So
And
this thing could have been something that somebody summoned or conjured up,
and that was the
giving
other
it
thing.
energy.
That's the other thing I was thinking. And I don't know if I had mentioned to you also, my cousin had an experience out there also that saw some creature in the same place that crossed right in front of him. And she couldn't explain what it was other than it was a big, huge wolf type looking dog that just kept walking. And there's a huge barbed wire fence right there. Just walked right through it and just kept on walking. Stopped, stared back at him, had red eyes, and then just kept walking into the field. And it was near a house where there was supposedly a lot of witchcraft and rituals that were taking place in that house. And this is all in the same proximity of where I hit this thing.
Wow. I wonder because we'll get stories. Like I've said this before, there was a guy whose uncle had done a ceremony, and he was in the garage, and they saw something, and it was, and he said, "Well, do you think that my uncle doing this summoning?" I was like, "Yeah, that's probably what caused it." I mean, and then there was another one we got. There was a Ouija board, a person that was playing with a Ouija board, and I have two stories from Indiana. It was kind of weird. One's from Terre Haute, Indiana, and the other one was from right outside of Indianapolis, a small little town outside of Indianapolis. But these people were telling me stories, and one of them was a Ouija board story. And I guess do you mind me telling it while you're here, and you can give me your opinion on this?
That's fine.
Yeah, and I was saving it because what they summoned was a Goatman type creature, but it had pink eyes. It wasn't glowing red, and it was black, completely black. But the head was goat-like. You know what I mean? And in fact, the way that there were two girls that told me that one of them said that it happened when they were teenagers. They're now in their late 30s or whatever, and they were saying that the head looked almost goat-like mixed with a wolf. And then that was what one of them said. Now, when she gave me the information to the other one, I only spoke to the other one I just messaged with. The other one, and I talked to three different people today. Like, I was trying to do three different things at one time today, and I did. Didn't get to watch the football games like I wanted to. There was a couple of them I wanted to watch. But I guess I'll go watch those on YouTube TV, when I'm done. So I did three or four things at one time,
Multi.
and of course Chris was with me and we were running all over the place.
Yeah.
But, when I was taking a breather there, I had a conversation with a guy who saw some weird dogman type stuff in Florida, and then I switched gears, or I talked to this other person, and then I switched gears, and then I talked to another person. So here's one of them that I got that I verified today because I wanted to tell it while you were on here. And this one came from Indiana. Very creepy story. Carla was the girl's name. And she got me in touch with her friend, okay, Glenn, who I thought was a guy, but it's because it's typically a male's name, but it was Glenda, but she goes by Glenn. So when I make the call, she's the one I actually spoke to on the phone, and I heard a female's voice, and I'm like, is Glenn there? And she's like, yeah. And then I sat there for a minute, and this is kind of funny, and no offense to you, but I was just kind of waiting for a guy to come onto the phone, and she's like, this is her? And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. I was like, okay, all right, well, cool, whatever. You know, it's like, so I was kind of taken aback by that, but then we started talking, we kind of laughed, and then she said, look, my friend said you had messaged with her and she gave, so you're the person with the, she said, okay, yeah. And it was her particular house where this happened. It was her grandmother's house. And then poor grandmother had to deal with this entity stomping around her property for like years, for like 20 years, because they didn't know how to get rid of it. They didn't know how to, whatever. And the grandmother was not a Christian. That was one of the problems too. And I really believe that because she didn't have any faith. And she was not she didn't want to bring a priest in or a preacher or anybody like that. She was of the opinion that they were all con artists and, whatever. She didn't want anything to do with it. So this thing rampaged around her house and did all kinds of stuff. And she got to the point where she ignored it. And this person said, well, we never had the heart to tell my grandmother what caused it, nor did we tell my mother until finally about a decade in. She's like, I was already older, and I was like already out of college and everything else. And she said, we were eating Thanksgiving dinner. And she's like, and I told my mother, I said, I'm sorry, but I did this, and she's like, we were playing with a Ouija board and they summoned something, but they actually asked for this thing. Because the two of the people they were playing around with, it was 5 of them altogether, 2 of them were Satanists and they didn't know it. So they told them to say these words, and they did. And so, and Garitano, he was on Bettina's show earlier. If y'all guys didn't see that episode, go check it out on the Cryptonormal Encounters with B. Moss, which is why we started our show late. She asked me to hold on, so I did her a favor. But the thing is, when you look at that situation, the 2 people that they tricked them, right?
Right.
One of them died in a horrible car accident where they burned to death. I think we were talking about that, Chris, people in car accidents. Yeah. And then the other one was literally, I can't even say how they died on the show. I can't do that. They were unalived by something the very horrible accident they had at their job. And so she said, what do you think about that? And when she told me that part, I said, look, when the devil's done with you, what does he care what happens to you? If you're of no further use to him, what does he care? And the way they both died was pretty bad. One of them had bragged that they had put a spell on someone that they had cast something that killed somebody. So, I mean, more's the pity when you die. I mean, you shouldn't do things like that. So if something happens to you, that's what happens to you. You shouldn't be sending things to people and messing with people. And so, but there was this goat-type creature. The thing that got me was like her friend who had originally reached out to me, who I only communicated with through email. She said that this creature looked wolf-like, goat-like, and if she had to put her finger on it, it was like a werewolf with horns. But the other girl said, it was like, no, it was almost like like cow-like when she said cow, And I said, you mean like a bull? And she said, kind of like a bull mixed with a goat. Yeah, like a minotaur mixed with a goat man, but also with wolf-like teeth. So the teeth on the snout is what gave. Thank you for that donation, Bradford. Thank you for everybody that donated. So that was weird, And so then you got this weird, like, chimeric creature that, was summoned through Latin, liturgical Latin. Literally, they used it, and that, bam, something appears,
Right.
What's so weird to me about this, though, is that it haunted that place for a long time. Thank you for that donation, Two Shadows. One of the things that I really thought was intriguing about this case was that her little brother and her little cousin were outside in the backyard playing, and what walked up to them and tried to play with them and talk to them was another child. And the grandmother's house was, they had been there for a long time. They never remember any spirits or ghosts. She said one time she heard like the door open and close and there was nothing there. That was the extent of anything that had ever happened to her. Her dad grew up in that house and he was like, I never had anything happen. I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing, you know. And it didn't start until recently. And the grandmother said the same thing. Now, the grandmother had an incident where when her husband, their grandfather, had died, she saw him at her bedside a couple times, and she thought that he had given her a kiss or a hug or something like that. So that was the only ghostly thing. I mean, it could have just been him saying goodbye or hello or whatever. With this other creature, though, it appeared, and I say it because I think that's what it was. It appeared to the little brother and their cousin while they were in the backyard on a swing set. And somebody says, never trust a strange kid because demons masquerade as all kinds of things. So, yeah, you're right. But this person,
anything innocent, I feel like, or to take advantage.
Well, yeah, anything they can get, you know, like the story we're going to talk about on Tuesday, where there was a female trying to wave them down.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like, nope, that is not a person in distress. It's something else. But you'll hear about that on Tuesday on the Halloween show. So, Aussie Sue, thank you for that donation. It was good to see you in the other shows that were going on today. It was really nice sitting back and getting to hear my friends talk. I didn't get to watch it completely, but I got to hear them talk. And it's always nice when Bettina and Garitano, who's one of my really good friends in this field, and Barton Nunley, one of my best friends, just both of them very good friends, and get to hear them all talk today. It was nice. But if you haven't heard it, go check it out and watch Blondes and Booze and like and subscribe. Please, folks, let's show some love to these channels. Go to Barton Nunley's and Humanoids and subscribe. Go to Bettina's channel, Crypto-Normal Encounters with B. Moss, and subscribe. Go to Blondes and Booze and subscribe. Go to Texas Front Porch, TEX, _S, Front Porch, subscribe. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, BMR, go like and subscribe. These are the people that are supporting us. Hellbent Holler, go like and subscribe.
Lyle Blackburn. I mean, he's been
Blackburn's
putting out a lot of
podcast.
work.
Go check it out, and go check out Chris Garitano's podcast.
Curious Realm,
Christopher Jordan, another ally of ours.
Within the Mist.
Within the Mist with Gary Brand. That's a good one. Rivos, The Lost Frequency. These are all our allies. These are all our friends. These are all people that we're associated with. Ann Celine and KPNL Radio. That's Ken Gerhardt's girlfriend. They've all expressed support for us, and I've tried to keep as many people out of this as possible because I don't want them getting attacked, because you saw what happened today, folks, with Lil Bray Bray. A fake account that Ike has made. I'm telling you, yes, I'm going to say it right now. You made that account, Ike, to troll people. You did it to on your show, and then you did it last night to me, and you did it again to Bettina today. So we know it's you. So we're going to have to endure it until, whatever. But we're going to just not pay it any more attention. I'm going to just try to not respond or say anything else. Unless they do that, I'm going to point it out that you did it. I'm going to make sure people know you did it. But your numbers are so horrible now. Even the fake, none of y'all can come back from. You're not going to win. I mean, you're gonna go broke buying subs. Okay, so we know these people are. You're a joke now, and everybody knows you're a joke, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's just you're gonna keep doing what you do. We don't care. Just making yourself look bad. But go and check out these people's shows, folks. Like and subscribe. Check them out. Give them some support. Show them some love. They're channels that are trying to make it, and these are the kind of people we need in the community. Abe Seas, he doesn't get a lot of traffic on his, but we were looking at some pictures again last night. Very compelling. The Elms Grove thing is very compelling. Some of the things that I've seen in those pictures is it's pretty crazy. And you can spot it, too. And I sat there at the conference with Abe and Bettina, and we went over some of these photos. And, yes, that's why I was backing them up, because I believe what I saw.
And Jerry and Ella, too. Like
Jerry and Ella. I don't know what their channel's called again.
It's Jerry's name, and then there's a couple numbers. I'll look it up right now.
Okay, and then Abe's channel. What's Abe's channel called? If Abe, we always get it wrong.
Yeah, it's Spiritual Cryptid Encounters.
Spiritual Cryptid Encounters. Check him out too, folks. Give him some love. Show him some love. Jason Bland, who I think probably comes on in just a little bit. if he's not on already. Jason Bland with Paranormal Soup does a really good job, does a hell of a show. He's one of the most underrated people in this field. But thank you, Liberty. I appreciate that. That's great.
It's Jerry Williams 728.
Jerry Williams 728. Yeah.
And
they're not worried about people watching. Just get their book because that tells you a lot. It's what's it called? Predator, Bigfoot, and the Spiritual Warrior's Path. So, Gail, let me ask you a question. How long you were 14 and a half years? Did you ever have anything before or after that was as dramatic as this, or even close, or even anything remotely paranormal? I mean, just what do you got?
Well, I've never actually shared this with anybody when I was a kid. Like when I was like,
thank you, Mike Turner, for that donation.
I want to say it's probably like 3 or 4 years old, staying in my grandmother's house. And there was always this guy. I told my mom about this. I kind of freaked her out. This guy would always appear wearing black. He would slide this panel back above where I was sleeping in my grandmother's house. And he would always take me on a trip. And I would be flying up in the air with him. And then he'd bring me back and he'd put me back in bed.
Wow.
Are there any like more features besides just being dressed in black, or like were you able to make out his face at all?
He looked like he was always dressed in black. He was a turtleneck, and his hair was like slicked back, and he had like this. He had a goatee, a mustache and goatee. Is the best way I could describe him. But I remember specifically remember he was dressed in black with a black turtleneck. And he would always take me on a trip. Every time I'd go to my grandparents' house, I'd be sleeping, and that panel above the bed, he'd slide it back. He'd reach down, grab me by my hand, and take me on this trip. I even asked my mom, I said, "Mom, did I ever disappear when I was a kid at any time?" And she was like, "No." So I could never explain that one.
Well, what were these trips like? Do you remember, or?
The only thing I could remember was just like flying in the air with him. It was always up in the air and flying in the clouds with him. That's the only thing I can remember.
I want to say something really quick. Here's one thing that right there is important, and I'll tell you why. Because when you listen to some of these shows, okay, and I'm not talking about the ones I name. I'm talking about some of these other ones that people love. Mm-hmm. They do this niche where they specialize in something. They think that they're the Dogman Kings or whatever. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I notice is they'll take the person's cryptid encounter. They call it cryptid. It's not really a cryptid, but they call it a cryptid, and they'll say that that's somebody's encounter, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't really let the person go into their paranormal, the whole paranormal, like the whole thing.
Right.
Because that to them is the woo, or that's not about the Dogman or Bigfoot, whatever. That's not correct, because what we strive to do here and what we're trying to do is bring the whole story. That's why you had never told me this part, okay? And I just needed to ask that. Mm-hmm. One of the things I wanted to know from you was if there was something that precipitated this or something that came after this, subsequent. You just answered my question, because I knew in my heart that there had to be something that precipitated this, because that is probably why this thing was manifesting itself in front of you. I really believe that. There are people who have these weird experiences, and then later on they have a Dogman encounter. And you're sitting there going like, okay, this is why this happened, because you had something that happened previous. Now, maybe that's not why, but that other incident was a prelude to that, because you had that ability to see these things. So when they manifest to you, it's very obvious, like that, you see it clear as day.
Right.
Whereas some people, like we had some people on a show one time, and they were talking about driving through a Dogman. They just drove right through it. Now, we've had them on the show, but we've had multiple people tell us, in emails and messenger messages, whatever, that this is what happened. They've seen like a Bigfoot or a Dogman or even a Goatman that looked transparent. And yes, we had one from Orange, Texas, right outside of Orange, Texas. It was a guy and two ladies were driving, and really just the lady in the passenger side saw it clear as day. but it was like a goat man. And when it walked, it got real close to the vehicle, and it was holding something in its hand, and it looked almost like an axe or something, like he was holding like a small cleaver looking thing. And she was like, "What is that?" And they all just kind of looked over, but they didn't get as good of a look at it. And it was see-through. She said everything was like you could see through it. It was kind of drizzly. And she just says, we look over and we could see right through it. And then, so she asked me if I'd ever heard of anything like that. I said, yeah. Purgatory Road, people see this black goat man all the time over there in Devil's Backbone. We get stories from there. I've gone over this, like, once again, David Weatherly, who's, lives in this area, and we've talked about it, and some of the reports off of Purgatory Road with the black dog and the black goat man and whatever that comes near that cemetery. Some people see it like it's full-on flesh and blood, and some people see it like it's, like an ethereal being. There's also a story that we got recently out of that same area, and I get this, Gil, of what looks like a headless conquistador. Now, Anthony, we went over those stories with somebody who had given me, you, and D and Scorpion these stories. And they said that they saw something that looked like a group of conquistadors. But the thing that gave it away that they were ghosts, they looked completely flesh and blood, right? The guy that gave us the story, his name was Gary. But he told us his story. He says, dude, he goes, it was him and his now ex-wife, but they were there camping. And he said, dude, we saw them walk through, like just on horseback. Wow. And he's like, it was crazy. And there were some of them that were walking next to the horses, and you could hear the armor clanging. You could hear everything. And one of them that was bringing up the rear had no head.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, whoa. He thought maybe this was, at first it was like reenactors or people that just wanted to, I don't know, man. It's just weird. Like it was, pretty obvious that and then he's like, what completely sold them on the idea that these are, ghosts, he's like, there's no head. And he's like, he tells his wife, and he's like, Susan, well, his wife's name is Susan. I should have said it, but anyway, he says, Susan, do you see the last one? There's no head. It has no head. And she's like, oh my gosh, there's no head. But then when she noticed that, she looks and she sees that one of them doesn't have a leg. So, and it was on the horse. And then she noticed that a couple of the horses looked like that you could see through them at certain spots. What causes that now? And now I've heard this same thing out of Gettysburg. There was a person that told us a story from Gettysburg that said that they were up there and they saw soldiers walk by, Confederate soldiers. They could tell a few of them had the gray, uniforms, and the other ones just kind of looked like they were wearing regular clothes because the Confederates didn't have the money to buy the uniforms like the Union did. They weren't as organized, whatever. But they walked through, and that they were definitely Confederate soldiers. And the area where they were at, there was a battle there. And believe it or not, they were probably Texans because they said that Texas division got annihilated. And so they were walking through, and they noticed that some of them you could see through them at certain spots. Now, I don't know what that is. Maybe that's where they were wounded. I don't know. People who believe in reincarnation will say stuff like, well, if you get birthmarks, you'll have whatever. And I knew this guy who had red birthmarks all over his arm and the side of his face. Years later, we started talking, probably 2016, 17, and his sister had a dogman encounter. So he gave me his paranormal story, and it wasn't anything real, amazing or whatever, but it was interesting. His name was Rick. And one of the things Rick told me, he said that when, because he had always had that birthmark, he said that he had a dream since he was a kid that he'd been in a fire. Oh, wow. So he goes to this curandero, whatever you want to call it. And she tells him that he had a past life and he died in a fire down in South Texas. And it was pretty interesting, and it was eye-opening for him because he looked it up, he researched it, and he's like, this person did die in a fire down there. And he died, a couple years before he was born. And the marks all over his body could have been from, that could be what it is.
Wow.
So it's very weird. I mean, when you go down those rabbit holes, I think that this thing that happened to you, Gil, was probably a prelude to, whatever this thing is. Yes, Vanessa, curandero. Okay, right, great. You want me to say it like that? I would say curandero, curandero. Okay, you got that? Good, got it. You always want to correct me, whatever. I say curandero because, and everybody that's in the table here knows why, because it's my way of saying it. I like to talk crap. I just like to say it like that, and I used to piss my aunt off, but she was the one aunt that I would argue with all the time, but whatever.
I like to cause problems.
No, I just like to, because I like to needle her, because sometimes she listens to the show and then she's like, but I would mess with her. She's not really my aunt. She's like a friend of mine's mother, but I would call her my aunt, and I would always give her a hard time. And so I would always tease her, because her mother was a curandero or whatever, and I would say curandero. But I can't even have that, man. I can't even have that. Why are you mad? I'm not mad. Do I look like I'm mad, Vanessa? I'm not mad. If I was mad, I'd ban you. I'd kick you out. I'm not mad. We're just so used to people trolling and messing with us. We're kind of on edge, But you would be too if you were. It was a constant, nonstop attack. Because, like I said before, they don't work. When you don't work, you have time to troll, I guess, right? I would, if I didn't have to work, I would rule this world right now. I would be in charge of a lot of stuff. I would just be like running 5 or 6 businesses, and it would just be nonstop. And there'd be a lot of people's lives would have a better, standard of living, because I understand things like economics. I understand all kinds of things that people don't bother to learn. It's not hard. Somebody was telling me today, I was talking to them on the phone, and they were telling me they like the history aspect of the show, and they like what I do. And that's because I research and I read. People don't take the time to do that, and then they want to be mad because people don't go watch them.
Yeah, reading nowadays is a lost art.
Yeah, I mean, and then people say they don't have time. Well, there's things called audiobooks. I was talking to one of the listeners today about it. Go listen to the audiobooks. I mean, you don't have to. I've gotten a lot of books done through that. When I don't have time, to do certain things, I'll be on the computer, check on my email, put an audiobook on. I like Elmer Kelton. It's some of the only fiction I like is the Old West stuff, because he's very historically accurate. Mm-hmm. And so check out Elmer Kelton. He's got good stuff. I was into the Louis L'Amour a little bit, but then it was just not. It got a little too far. Just wasn't as good. I liked Elmer Kelton a lot better, but a lot of Texas stuff there. But when you saw this thing, and then you talked to people about this Goatman creature, do you think that this Goatman creature was just always there, and you actually ran into it because of your predisposition, possibly? Or do you think that this thing, it was just a chance encounter, and it was something that would never happen again, like lightning striking? Or do you think that the people that were saying, hey, there was a Goatman, do you believe them? I mean, what do you think?
I just thought it was just by chance. That's the way I always believed it. But it for some odd reason, it just wanted me to make itself seen. Just because I was there, just wanted to make itself seen. I don't know why, but I just think it was just. I think it was chance, but it.
I was going to ask, were you feeling fear at the moment when you saw this? This camera keeps turning off. I don't know what's going on with it. But did you feel like fear in the moment?
After I had hit it, and just seeing, knowing that I hit it at the impact that I felt, and not seeing any damage, I was like, yeah, that rattled me a little bit. But the one thing that I could never get out of my head for the longest time is just to look at head on its face and the red eyes. It's something that haunted me for a long time.
Maybe, it was just, it could be a little bit like a chance encounter, and a little bit of, what Wolf is saying is that it was in the area and it was hungry, so it just sensed you, but it wasn't like specifically going after you. It was just like whoever was in the area and you were just there. But because you've had that past encounter, that it kind of honed in on you more easily. And maybe it was, maybe to feed, maybe to scare you so that it could feed. Because, the thing about these like disappearing hit and runs that scares me is that why is it doing that? Is it trying to lure me out of the car to do something? Or is it trying, what is the purpose here of having this frightful impact of that making me think I hit someone and then having nothing there? Like, it really is just like a very bizarre sequence of events.
Yeah, because I mean, it really it rattled me out. After that point, I was like, okay, what's going on? You know, that was just totally just what's going on? What did I see? What just happened? Like I said, I went back to my department. I stood in the office. I my patrol night was done. I just stood there.
I mean, I wouldn't be going back out either. And I'd be carrying a shotgun with me everywhere, even if I had to step out of the office for a second. I mean,
but see, and that was the thing too, is, you know, I had my pistol with me. You know, when I heard it moving around, I pulled my weapon. I had my AR-15 and a shotgun back in my unit, but I'm thinking, you know, you just hit this thing with a Durango. Didn't do anything.
Anything else?
Oh, for me, no.
No, okay.
That was just a question.
I just was checking because I need to. So, did anything else ever happen to you other than what happened, like the story you told prior to the?
No, it's funny you asked that, you know, and I never put any, you know, any real thought into it until I started listening to some of the paranormal stuff, and everybody always talked about seeing a woman in white. I used to do a lot of hiking in the up in the hills behind my grandparents' house when I was a kid. Like about I must have been like 12 or 13 years old. I was back hiking real deep up in one of the canyons back there, and I mean, it was on a snowy day. I mean, it was snowing. I used to like hiking in the snow, and I saw through the trees a girl walking barefoot, completely in white, walk behind a tree and completely disappeared.
Hmm.
And this was fresh snow, and I looked. There was no tracks. There wasn't anything. I mean, I was like, maybe no. I was a kid. I was like, oh, maybe this girl's lost or something. Didn't really think anything about it, and just went back home. Until up until a couple of months ago, I started, you know, hearing stories about, you know, people seeing the woman in white, and I never made the connection. And I was thinking, you know, I saw something like that when I was a kid, but never thought anything.
You were a kid when that happened?
Yeah, I was like 12 or 13.
Wow. How old are you?
55.
Okay. So you're
I'm
older
old.
than me.
I'm old.
Well, it depends now. You know, Garetano said something to me the other day. He said that he's in very good shape. Anybody who's met him at the conference, he's just perfect shape. And he's my age. And he was saying that he believes fully that someday they're going to be able to extend your life indefinitely. But of course, it's going to be really rich people that have it first. So I guess his goal is to try to stay as healthy as possible till we could get to that point, because he says he wants to learn everything he can in this life before he moves on. And I said, well, the problem is, you know, that we only get a limited amount of time. And, you know, you're only going to be able to learn as much as you are willing to, too. I mean, that's the problem, is there just seems to be a fundamental problem with us as a whole. People are unwilling to learn. When the information is provided for them, they balk at it, you know.
Right.
And they're like, well, I don't want to believe that. And here's something I'm going to say to the audience. They'll say that they don't want to hear certain things. They don't want to, so they want to be in an echo chamber, I guess. And then they don't want to accept something when they're being taught it. They don't want to learn it. And that is a problem. Yeah, raw cacao. Yeah, Mike, we were in the truck together. It was me and Mike Turner, and Mike is not related to me, but Mike is a good friend. Mike and me, and it was me, you, and him, and Garetano, right? Anthony, we were going to the airport, and he was talking about his supplementation. Yeah, it's so raw cacao, but there's certain kinds you have to take because some of it's just really bad, full of chemicals. So you got to take the really good organic stuff. But like I was saying, some people they don't want to learn, but when you tell them something, it could literally expand their mind, expand their horizons, and they are totally against it because then they come up with their own delusional thoughts about reality and the nature of reality, and then they want to go, well, this is what I believe because it's based on what I was taught as a kid, and so that's it. and learning ends right there. And they don't, the rest of their life, they carry a certain belief about something. And if anybody challenges it, then they become defensive. And once you become defensive in a conversation, it's over. There is no communicating or learning. And that's what I see happen quite a bit. And you'll tell somebody something, they'll tell you a ghost story. And then you tell them, well, I saw this thing that looked like a werewolf. And they're like, what's the laughing for? Does it look like I'm laughing when I'm telling you this? And then they're over there like, well, I believe in that, but I don't believe what you saw. Of course not. Because somewhere, there's this disconnect that happens. But if they would be quiet, learn, and, or take the time to read or whatever, they could go and learn. And the information is out there. To me, it's ignorance. Ignorance is like, there's no excuse for ignorance at all. I mean, there's people that are willfully ignorant too.
Yes, I agree. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
There
are people that'll tell you you're lying and say that you didn't hit what you hit, but that's their opinion, So
yeah, they could argue with me all day long, and I know exactly what I saw. I know what I experienced. I know what I felt. I know. It happened.
Did you have anything happen afterwards, like any dreams or anything like
that? Most of my dreams are always very violent. They're always always in a shootout usually, or always fighting. But I don't know if that's because of everything I did with law enforcement, or I don't know. My dreams have always been violent as long as I can remember.
Walking with Giants says, with the woman in white near Trinidad.
Oh, what was that?
The Walking with Giants asked the question, was the woman in white near Trinidad?
It was in Trinidad.
It was in Trinidad, okay.
Yeah, it was in Trinidad. It was in one of the canyons behind my grandparents' house. They're like west of town.
Folks, if you have a question, just put it in capitalize it. That's what Blondes and Booze was doing today in Barton's chat. And so if people have questions, that's the way they do it. So it stands out if it's actually a question. Another thing I'm going to have to ask, folks, because there's 553 people in the chat and I have to ask this, we're going to have to kind of like keep the communication between each other, say hi, whatever, we get that. But these conversations that happen between people that aren't really pertaining to the show or whatever, or what we're talking about, or, whatever, unless it's a question or something, let's keep that down because the chat moves really fast because there's so many people typing things. And unfortunately, people are having conversations and I understand everybody likes to talk and be friends, but it needs to kind of be around about what we've been needing to say that for a while. Finally got like over 24 complaints now that we looked at the other day as a team. And we're like, okay, that's enough people complaining that we probably need to say something about that. So, we're not upset with you or Fruition or anybody else. She says, sorry, Josh, just miss Australia. No, my bad. That's not a problem. I mean, I don't even like having to tell people that, but like Anthony and Tony and everybody, we all just kind of had to say, hey.
Yeah, it's an issue because it's just like if people have relevant questions to, Gil or any of the speakers in our past shows, it becomes hard to see those. And then some of those people's questions don't get answered. And we just kind of feel bad for that. So then we get some messages saying like, I asked a couple questions, but no one ever asked them. So I never really found the answer to them. And so like, that was like their complaint. We're like, oh yeah, we're sorry about that. We must have missed them.
So did you have anything to close with? Did you want to say anything else, Gil?
No, not really. Just other than Los Animas County is a very bizarre place.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I've experienced a lot of different things patrolling at night. Seen helicopters that don't make any noise hovering over cattle, and I've done a couple of cattle mutilations.
What was that like?
Textbook. I mean, it was. I mean, no blood. I mean, organs removed without any kind of. I mean, no tracks in or out of the area. But the one thing that always always caught my attention, and it was mentioned, I believe it was mentioned in the show with a gentleman that I did the investigation with. He's been on a couple of different shows where it looked like the cow was dropped from a high altitude and it just landed.
Yeah.
I mean, and because there was broken ribs, and I mean, just everything textbook.
Couple questions here. War Criminal says, did the Goatman have hair on its head, and if so, what color?
I can't recall if it had any hair on its head. I know it did have. Recall it looked like it had like a small goatee on it. The chin was like pointed. It had a goatee.
Mm.
Because I was centered on the eyes. The eyes just totally threw me off. Just staring at the eyes.
That is weird. Well, if you have anything else, let me know, Gil. It was good having you on the show, and thank you for bringing to, because we don't usually have guests on Friday and Sunday, but with you, I just thought, it would be prudent to have you on sooner the better, getting it done, because we've been talking about this for months.
Yep. Well, thanks for having me.
Unfortunately, I'm so backed up, but go ahead.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and if you want to come on and maybe do one for talk about this same thing, we could do a show, just go over this encounter for the people who only listen to the podcast. We could do a podcast episode. It reaches a wider audience, and I would say, maybe we could do that, and then we could talk about a couple of different Goatman encounters and put together a podcast episode. So if you'd be down to record with us, let me know.
That sounds fun to me. That'd be great. I'd be willing to do that.
All right, guys. I'm gonna run for I'm gonna let Gil run, and so I got to get to a couple stories here. But thank you for coming on the show, Gil Sanchez. Everyone, Gil Sanchez.
Thank you, gentlemen. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job.
Well, we appreciate you being a supporter.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll see you.
All right. Good night.
Bye. So that was Gil Sanchez, and that was his encounter with a goat-type creature, a goat man, if you will. The one thing that interests me about that encounter is that it was small.
Yeah.
Like most of the Goatman stories we get, they're big. I mean, they're like Dogman, Bigfoot big. I mean, I don't really get that many small Goatman stories, but if there was there was a story in one of Linda Godfrey's books called and that particular story, I don't remember which one it was. And Anthony, you've read a couple of them. I don't know if it was Hunting the American Werewolf or maybe if it was the one right after that. It was one of those two. And anyway, she had written so many of them. And it was the Half Pint Trail Runner. And then oddly enough, one of the people that we were talking about earlier was Gary. And then we mentioned Gary Brand, and then we mentioned Scorpion, who's also named Gary. That's funny. It's kind of synchronicity there, but this particular person's name was Gary Sanchez, and he's lives in my hometown, and he's one of my sister's ex-boyfriends. They're both married now to different people and have children and whatever, but they were together for several years. And he saw something very weird by the hiking bike that looked like a small werewolf-looking creature. So his particular story, and I'd reached out to him when we were writing the book we had a conversation with him. And I said, hey, I'm writing a book, and I want your story, whatever your permission. And he said, yeah, because he had given me permission to say it on another show that I had been on, but I needed to make sure that I could put it in the written word, and but he was like, yeah, that's cool, man, and asked me how I was doing and everything, and we had a long talk, and it was cool to catch up. But his story hadn't changed. It is what it was, the same as it always was. And these people that gave me their stories, they didn't want nothing for it. They just wanted to here's the story, is what happened to me. I mean, it's a very matter of fact. Some people act like, there's some sort of, agenda behind it or something. There's not. Just wanting answers. For me, the agenda is simple. I just want to get closer to the truth of what I've seen in my life and what I know to be true. Alan says, my eyes are burning. I've heard ghosts are here for some unfinished business, but what about
Kids.
Yeah, because it's I can't see it with the backdrop. He put lowercase. Wait, I don't know. Is that what that says?
It's
Kids.
kids.
Okay. All right. So what about? I don't know. Like the going back to the thing that happened in Terre Haute, and these people saw a ghost or a Goatman type creature. Right, was in a little area right outside of Terre Haute, and they said that this thing came up to their children, and it was like a kid, like a child. But when they looked out the window, one of the aunts saw this big hulking Goatman looking creature. That's crazy because the creature that they saw was like 7 foot tall, and it was like brownish color, black and brown, I guess. These children, they were like 10 and 11 or 11 and 12, some of their year apart, something like that. They saw this thing as being a child that wanted to play with them. And so the aunt runs out there and freaking out and says, come inside. One of them's her son. Y'all get inside right now, and runs up and starts screaming at her son and his cousin, which is this person that told me the story, her little brother. I said, get your butt inside before something happens. Ricardo Gonzalez, hope everyone is well. Hey, Ricardo, what's going on, man? We just ate dinner with you last night. They showed up at the restaurant where we were at, and we just sat down and we ate dinner. Mike Turner says, I finished the Beast of Bray Road, and now I'm on Linda Godfrey's other book, The Hunt for the American Werewolf. Yeah, that is it called The Hunt for the American Werewolf, or is it called Hunting the American Werewolf? Hunting the American Werewolf. Mike, you scared me because I thought there was a Mandela effect right there. I was like, come on, man. I've read that book twice.
Well, I don't know if ghosts are here entirely for unfinished business, because do you remember that story you had where you were guarding a house? And it was like an old lady's house, and then
Anthony named that one the Restless Widow.
The Restless Widow. And then the ghost would make coffee and like do. It was basically everything that the husband would do.
You're thinking of the one that was out there by the lake.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, that one's the one where he would come down every day and the toaster would go off.
Yeah, you smell coffee.
It happened to me, Brian, D, and who else was there? Bo. I think Bo. It happened to him too.
So like his unfinished business was making breakfast. Like I think some of them.
No, I think he was just going through the same routine.
Yeah, like I don't think that ghosts are entirely here for unfinished business. I think it's just certain emotions maybe linger, and that might be what causes them to stay, or who knows what really causes them to stay.
Here's the weird thing to that: the lady that hired us, my business partner, he always said she was just like very lonely, because after I went to go when I sold that part of because it's a very convoluted story, but I had this business and I sold it to the guy that I'm working with now, who's my business partner. And then I eventually got bored. I had my money and I had, time. So I just was working all the time doing, whatever. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to put this money back in the business and then let's start over. So we ended up doing that. So his business, he had the company, and I just put my money back into it and then just became a partner. And that's kind of how that happened. And so she called us back to work, and we sent someone over there for about 2 weeks, but I wasn't the one that did it. She wanted me. She liked me and Scorpion, but we ended up sending somebody over there. And then eventually she said, I don't like these guards. They don't, Well, she liked us because we would hang out and play checkers with her and watch TV with her. It was more just like being a companion and friend to her. But I figured out something, and one of the things, and me and Marty have talked about this, and that's my business partner, folks, and I know you've heard him say this, Anthony, that house was haunted. He went out there. I mean, he said it was haunted. He said, that house is haunted, dude. But the house was haunted before her husband passed. And according to her, which I think was one of the reasons why she wanted us out there, because she would talk to me about ghosts and stuff like that, and she would watch those like paranormal shows and stuff. And, of course, I had to do my job. I couldn't just sit there with her the whole time. I had to walk around or whatever. And she did have somebody who was prank calling her and stuff like that. So I think it was neighborhood kids, my opinion. And I did tell her at one point, I was like, I really don't think you need security. I mean, I felt like we were just taking her money, and I didn't think it was right. And she sort of kind of admitted to me, that she really she's like, I just feel more comfortable with y'all being here. And it eventually got to the point where I didn't even like to bill her for that, you know. And so I just, you know, we were basically like not charging her very much. And then it was like, you know, I just kind of had to wean her off of us, you know, so she could just, because we were short on manpower. And we worked with her a couple weeks, you know, later on, I think back in probably 09 or something like that. And in fact, we may have had that account, Anthony, when you were working, when you first started with us. And
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, and so she worked it. And I don't know if you worked it, but she was a nice old lady, and she was very kind, and she had this little dog, you know. And I think she just wanted somebody to be there because she felt unsafe. But I think it was something spiritual that was bothering her. But when she said once her husband passed, thank you for that donation. We appreciate it, Anna. And she said that she felt at peace because she knew that the sounds and noises, what was her husband, and the haunting that was going on when her husband was alive seemed to have stopped. And she was a wealthy person. I mean, she wasn't like, you know, rich beyond measure, but she had money, and they had a nice swimming pool. And one of our guards reported that one day they were walking around the swimming pool, and that was when me and Marty had somebody going out there to work it. And the water just kind of went whoosh up in the air and came back down. And the way they described it, it was kind of like what Clark said about what happened when the night before Thanksgiving. And we talked about it on the Halloween show of 2019, I think. I think it was the Halloween show of 2019. It was when that thing appeared on the windshield, when it was like feweth, which is like the word for water spirit. And so there was this splash in the water, and it looked like somebody done a cannonball. And that was the extent of the haunting that the other guards had reported. There was one guard that claimed to have seen a ball, like a floating cloud or small cloud that floated through the kitchen. I never saw anything like that. I heard the shuffling of the feet, and I heard the toaster going off and the coffee maker, what sounded like somebody making coffee and toast. And I heard you see how somebody would read a newspaper. I know young people probably don't know this or remember this, but you hear that when they kind of
fold it out.
They fold it and they shake it out, and then they're reading it, and then they turn the page, and you know, I would hear that. And she would be asleep upstairs, and I would just go and I'd check, and I wouldn't see anything. And I don't know what that was, you know, and so. But I didn't feel any negative presence or anything like that at all. Now her daughter came over a couple times, and she and her son, which would have been her grandson, was already like 20 or something like that. And they were very adamant that she enjoyed having us there, that it was a good thing. And she said that there was a real negative, heavy feeling in that house before they moved into it. There'd only been one other people that had lived there, one other family. And get this. One of the people that lived there, when they moved in, somebody was doing something because they found like a small altar with a pentagram on it with little black candles, and it was in a closet in one of the upstairs bedrooms. That bedroom now, nobody went into that bedroom. That bedroom was used to like store stuff. And one day I had to go in there and it was me and my cousin, and we had to go in there. We were doing security for her, and he was doing the shift. And she wanted us to move. I remember it was like a big box she was looking for. And she was an elderly person, so she wanted us to move it. And when we went in there, I remember like going, she's like, oh, we have a dolly in the garage. So I went out to get the dolly. And it's not our job doing security, but she's a kind person. I was just, you know, I go out of my way to help my clients. If they're nice to me, I'm nice to them. It's just the way life works. So I went and I got the dolly, and it was, you know, carrying it up the stairs and whatever. And it was kind of like the one we got, one of those, I forgot what they're called. But anyway, yeah. And so I was carrying it up, and my cousin claimed to have heard something in there in the other corner of the room, like something shuffle around in there, which gave me, you know, I kind of paused and thought about it, and I was like, whoa, maybe there's something here, you know. And but a couple of the guards said when they walked upstairs to do their round that they heard something in that room. Like a scratching noise. They'd open the doors, nothing there. Nice house, not very old at that time, so it wouldn't have been like necessarily a house. I still think somebody did something in that room, and that's why that was that way. I mean, you know, it's pretty obvious to me that's what was going on there. And I believe that she that it was more activity, but you know, it was weird because after her husband died, then it stopped. Like, I mean,
It was like he came over and protected her.
yeah, and she said she felt his presence, and I felt it too. Like, I felt a very
Well, I mean,
loving
all the
and
guards
kind,
did. I felt.
presence there that was like more attached to her. Like when I would walk her up the stairs, I felt like he was there, like there was a third person there, but nothing at all negative, completely positive. So,
Do you think it was locked in the room? Jing Reality says.
hey Larry, what's going on, man? Fisher and Sons Roofing, folks. Let's see here. Hold on one second. There's one other thing I wanted to do. Give me my glasses. I'll try to take them off and act like I can see without them, but can't. So I had another story. Thank you for that donation.
Larry.
Larry, you didn't have to do that. I saw you donate to Barton earlier, man, and that was good enough, man. Barton is a good dude. I just know that Larry's he's a supporter of the show, a sponsor. Well, we got two different stories we can choose from. I got one from a firefighter who lived in India, and he was. Did we tell that one for the Halloween one? Sorry about this, folks, but I don't remember 100%. I don't think we got into that one. I think we started to, but I think we ended up telling a different one. Anyway, this guy was from New Delhi, India, and this happened back in the 70s. Where he lived there in the 70s and 80s, so I don't know exactly when because it's something I read. But he actually told me a story, and this, I don't know what this is. I'm going to tell you, and then you can draw your own conclusion to what you think this is. There was a fire that took place, and we were talking about fire earlier, and so it just seems appropriate to talk about it. And he was a firefighter there in India, and they didn't have the most sophisticated, everything, whatever. And one of the things he said, when he quit working as a firefighter and got another profession, what led him to quit was a pretty unnerving story, and it's pretty creepy. He went into a building, and there was a man who was still moving around, and he was engulfed in flames. And he fell in front of him, and he's wearing the breather, whatever, and that front part of the building was not burned up, but when he walked in, he realized how bad it was toward the back. And this person was walking out, and they were, completely, they were gone. He looks over to his left, and he sees a man standing there looking at this body that's burning. And this guy is completely unharmed. He's untouched. There's nothing that's not burning him or touching him or hurting him in any way. So he motions to the guy, and he says, "You need to come on." He said he could feel the heat coming, and he was going to have to. He couldn't make it much longer. So he walked out, and he's like, he was gasping for air. He needed air. The little breather thing wasn't doing much. And he said, "There's a guy in there. There's a man in there." And he says, "I remember what the guy looked like. There were 4 people that they know of that had died in the fire just from being burned up, and then several people had died from smoke inhalation. So a very bad fire." He goes and he looks at the pictures, at the photos of the people who had passed away, and he was almost positive that person that was standing there in the fire that was looking at the other body that was burning was who he saw. So he doesn't know, though, because that person was burned beyond recognition. He doesn't know that person was looking at that body. He didn't know. He was sitting there going like, like, looking at it. And so he got the distinct impression that was a spirit, and that was him. He was watching his body burn, and he was just in shock. He was horrified, and the spirit and him both, probably just shocked and horrified at what was happening. And it was like some sort of industrial fire, like something had happened, and there was like chemicals or something, and it was very telling. But one of the things he said over the coming weeks, there was an investigation to see what had caused it. And so these fire investigators, were going in there, arson investigators, fire investigators, whatever they call them, something different there. They were going in and out of there to see if they could find any cause of it, what caused it, whatever, because they think that a disgruntled employee may have caused it, which means that somebody was murdered. And so they had to find out. So when they were going through the building, one of the things that he thought was important, he went in there one day because one of his friends, actually one of his cousins, was involved in the investigation. And they worked together at one point. And he went with him. And he said that in the building, when they were in there, it was just charred, smoke building, whatever, just destroyed completely. And it was dangerous to even be in the building. So they didn't really, allow more than one or two people at a time. But he said he looks up and he sees this sort of like black, shadowy figure just kind of sitting in the corner of the room, and it stood up, and he goes, something unfurled behind it, almost like wings. And he said that I knew immediately that right there, that being had something to do with this whole deal. Well, as it turns out, it was arson. Somebody did do it. They did it on purpose. And the person that did it actually was suspected of killing 2 other people. So, and there were rumors that this person dabbled in black magic and messed with stuff like that. And that person was angry at their employer that they had worked for. They had gotten fired. So they went and did that. When this person was questioned by the police, get this. This is what he said. He said that I didn't do it, and you can't pin me to it, blah, blah, blah. One of the people that worked there and as a police officer had a sister who dated this guy and said to talk to her, and she says, oh, he practices black magic. And they were very adamant that he had the ability to do this, but they couldn't tie him to it because he didn't work there anymore. And nobody had seen him there, and he had a rock-solid alibi. But they were like, they knew 100% that he had the motive, and they believed that he was involved in this. Somehow, they knew. But he was never formally charged because they couldn't prove it. So, anyways, he said after that, and seeing that demon, which is what he called, he was like, this is before he came to the States. He was like, I just was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I don't want to do this job anymore. And he had said that wasn't the only time that he had seen something like that. He had saw something one time in a building and moving around. It looked like a shadow, and it was moving through the fire. And he said that it was just too much, too much. So that's a very interesting case. I don't know what to make of that. You can give me your thoughts, or if you have any questions. But that was one of the stories that we were gonna tell. But there's that one. So let me get my glasses back on.
Yeah, 2 shadows. That's it's very common. Seems like in every other culture that it's more accepting of all this. I mean, even if it's not spoken about or, highlighted, they're definitely more accepting of or knowledgeable about the fact that there are things around us that we can't see or handle.
Yeah. Love Cat says, I've experienced strange things in the Middle East. Oh, yeah. There's a story that I'm trying to get out of someone because I want to put them all together. One happened near El Madam, and then the other one happened near Baalbek. And then there's another one that was very similar that happened near Petra. And they're all three very similar. Actually, there's two for two of those places that I got. And then one for the other one that was just nightmarish. So, yeah, the Middle East does have a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of India, too. And there's a lot of weird stuff that comes out of, like, South America, Asia, you name it. Why is it doing that? Nike Snow says, I used to see a hat man as a kid. A lot of people do it. I don't know why people see that entity so often.
Do you think it's one entity or multiple entities using the same form?
I know it's not just one. It can be. There's no way. I mean, there's got to be more. I mean, there's got to be a whole legion of these things because one entity is not going to go around the entire world. I mean, you get stories from all over the place.
He might have the travel service of Santa Claus. You don't know.
Yeah. Stories from the Tower. Bernard Fox. Wolf, any more short stories from the Tower? One of my favorite episodes. Not right now. I don't have anything from there. Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters, Jack the Ripper. Yeah, they actually proved who Jack the Ripper was, and I guess it offended some people, so they retracted it.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Midnight Towers around here. We know about it. You drove us around and would telling
I'm
us.
talking about Jack the Ripper. What are you talking about?
No, he's talking about those moon towers in Austin. How that was a theory that he started out in Austin.
Oh, I thought he
But
left
that was
England.
a different guy. But
Yeah, that was a different guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But there were similarities, but it was a different.
The
crime.
prevailing theme is that this guy's name was something Scott, the one that killed the people here. And I can't remember. Expanded Perspectives did a really good deep dive on it, and it turned out it was an African American guy. It was they called him the Servant Girl Annihilator, and his name was something Scott because the tracks that they found in the snow and in the mud were of a person because he was barefoot at one point when he did what he did, and he had 9 toes. And when this guy, he was a very violent guy, and he got into a fight, which is what is now Buffalo was. I don't know. Is it Buffalo Billiards now still? Where Squid used to work. Squid could probably answer that. I don't know what's there now. I don't go to 6th Street. It's too dangerous. But and it's just not for me. It's not my cup of tea. But anyway, that place there, that's where he died. He got into a fight, and somebody stabbed him or beat him or something, and they got into a fight. And then when they uncovered that he had 9 toes, I mean, but they never did close the case. But they believed that it was him that did it. His name was something Scott. His last name was Scott, something like that. Go to the Expanded Perspectives, folks. Another good podcast if you're looking for a good podcast. And you can they'll tell you probably a little bit more in that episode.
Yeah, one of my personal favorites, so I definitely highly recommend them.
Yeah. They were at my conference too, or our conference. I won't say mine, but I think that what happens though with these murders, a lot of times things happen simultaneously in different places. H.H. Holmes' real name was Mudgett. Yep. H.H. Holmes was horrible. What a horrible, horrible person. What a con artist. See, folks, this is what con artists do. They're not above murder. I can tell you that. Con artists will do anything to keep the con going, including and up to murder. They don't care. And H.H. Holmes was definitely one of them. H.H. Holmes, what he did, just in a nutshell, he built a murder hotel, yeah. and it was for the Chicago World's Fair. I don't know what year was that, 1910. Look it up, see what it says. Late 1800s, early 1900s, something like that. I don't know. It was that time. The servant girl murders that happened here in Austin, I believe. One of y'all look that up. Can y'all look the dates up on that? Hey, Michigan Rob, what's up, brother?
1892, it says.
For budget or for
H.H. Holmes.
H.H. Holmes? That was the year of the World's Fair?
It says the castle was finally completed in 1892.
When was the World's Fair? Because that's when he started doing all the killing.
The Starving Girl Annihilator in
Mickey G,
Austin
you're correct about that.
was 1884 to 1885.
1884 and 1885, yeah. And it ended abruptly because that guy was killed in a fight.
Yeah, May 1st, 1893.
1893 was
For the World's Fair.
Yeah. So what he did was he had all these rooms and he had all these people that came to the World's Fair, and he had practiced on a few people, and he had these rooms where he could like put gas in into their rooms. This is true. This isn't made up. Nothing. I mean, this isn't. That sounds fantastical, but truth is stranger than fiction, folks. We know that. And they would he would asphyxiate them, and then he would dump them into the basement, and he would finish them off down there if they were still alive. Some people he would come up behind them and garrote them. He did all kinds of horrible things. Yeah, Ricardo, Jack the Ripper was operating around the same time, or right after that. They think that it was connected, but it wasn't. The guy's name, I used to have his name memorized, that they think that did it. The guy that did the murders for Jack the Ripper. And they found DNA from, he was one of the prime suspects.
His name was like Aaron Kosminski.
Aaron Kosminski. He was a kosher butcher, and they got one of his descendants to give DNA, and it matched the DNA that they found.
It's a barber, actually.
Oh, no, and that's right. That was the Mandela effect.
It's got to be.
It was a kosher butcher.
I thought it was a butcher. That's
yeah,
weird.
He was. He was a kosher butcher, but now they're saying he was a barber.
Yeah, he's a barber.
Yeah,
that's wild.
That is crazy because I remember him being a kosher butcher because he was one of the prime suspects. But then after the DNA was submitted and it came back a match, they tried to say, "Oh well, no, it wasn't him. It wasn't Kosminski. It was we don't know who." And they never give a really good reason. There's like 2 or 3 reasons, but none of them. It's like when somebody gives you 2 or 3 excuses, and none of them make sense. It's just it kind of confirms that it's all just a lie because why would you need 2 or 3 excuses? I don't know, but that was a weird thing. That never set right with me because I'm almost positive that it was him. And yeah, see, Love Cat, I remember a butcher, me too. But now if you go look at it, they say he was a barber. Well, he was a kosher butcher, and I don't care what they say. That's what it was. Because a lot of those people were so fascinated with paranormal. People like Sarah Winchester. Yeah, what do you mean by that, Ricardo? I don't understand that statement. I think it's really odd too. Like when you trace the footsteps of these serial killers, like if you were to be building intricate houses. Oh yeah, okay. If you a lot of paranormal stuff pops up. Like I was watching a show where these people had went to where the building where Jeffrey Dahmer had did what he did, and of course he was like that apartment complex ended up being leveled. They destroyed it because they thought it was just a blight on the community of Milwaukee, and so the city destroyed it. And they turned it into a park where kids go and play now, but they don't realize the evil that was once there. I don't know, man. Yeah, see, 23-year-old Polish barber, but he was a kosher butcher, and he was actually Jewish. He wasn't Polish. Well, he's Polish, but he was Polish-Jewish. There was an influx of Jewish immigrants at that time from Eastern Europe. It was when Benjamin Disraeli was in charge. He was the prime minister that was Jewish, and he was there in England, and so he gave asylum to a lot of Eastern European Jewish people. And I remember one of the things they said is the Jews aren't people that are to be blamed for nothing, and that was one of the clues that was left behind by somebody. And they had said for years that it was not him bragging; it was somebody trying to frame him. But one of his own family members, I remember reading that they had said he did it. I mean, they were like, "Go get him," and they didn't. We don't know what happened there or why, but I know that he was one of the prime suspects. And that would have made sense because a barber doesn't make sense. Butcher, yeah, you would know how to, because this person knew how to eviscerate people. That's just, when people went in, what happened?
Well, Ricardo Gonzalez says, the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. I lived really close to that building when I was in LA. Left the year that girl was found in the water.
Oh, yeah,
main.
because the Cecil Hotel was where, what's his, don't tell me. Yeah, the Night Stalker, Ricardo.
Richard Ramirez.
Richard Ramirez. Sorry, Ricardo. Richard Ramirez, and people were saying that it was his ghost because people saw his ghost at different times at that hotel. The Cecil Hotel, that is, and somebody had said something about American Horror Story earlier. Yes, because American Horror Story did do a season on that, and it was very weird. I mean, it was like the H.H. Holmes thing, because the one guy's character, I remember watching a couple episodes, and it was just that show. I got tired of that show. It was so weird. But he was like, he talked like this, and he was trying to be like H.H. Holmes, like whatever. And he was like, my murder castle, So the hotel was like his murder castle, but it was a mixture of the Cecil Hotel mixed with H.H. Holmes. So that whole season was that. And there was that, and oddly enough, that guy ended up playing that. I don't know the actor's name. He's a blonde-haired guy, but he ended up playing Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
That movie, about Jeffrey Dahmer, and I thought he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he acted just like how you would think Dahmer would act, like twisted weirdo. JoJo, Lady Gaga was awesome in that. Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. Good actress, I guess. Yeah, I guess you could give her for that. I'm not into her and her Kabbalah stuff. Her vampirism was on display for that episodes, those shows, because that's what they are. Yeah, whole character based off of, that's what that was. And so with that particular story, I could tell you what that was too. There was an Asian girl who ended up looking like she was terrified, and she goes into an elevator, and it's like she's hiding from someone who you can't see, who's off camera. And the next thing you know, she ends up being found in like a cistern or something, and she died. It's really weird. Yeah, and how did she get into that tank? Yeah, exactly. It says she killed her friend and took her persona. Charlie Budden. I'm just reading some of the comments here, folks.
Oh,
man.
Yeah, that's of course.
Yeah, that's not something I would have wanted to deal with. Chris Anderson, any Thunderbird stories? Oh yeah. I don't have time to do them tonight, but that seems like I remember that as a little kid. Yeah, and we're really about to take off here, but there's a lot of people in the chat and you're asking questions, so I'm trying to get, to help people. Thank you to everybody who's donated tonight too. We appreciate it, because you're what keeps the show going. Yeah, the city put up homeless people. They do that here. They've converted several hotels into homeless shelter type places, and we did security with them. And that's how Anthony ended up having a very weird encounter one night. I think you've talked about it on the show before. And those places turn into like a real mess. One of them used to be a nursing home where a lot of people passed away, and I worked security there. And there was stuff that would crawl around the walls. There was one lady that was there who told one of our guards, I think she told Jeff. Wasn't it Jeff? Was it Jeff or Patrick? They were both working. They both worked that in Child Inc. around that time.
Yeah, I think it was probably Patrick.
I think it was Patrick or somebody. It might have been Jeff. I don't remember which one of them told me, but they were working there. Clark might have been there at that time too. But it was one of them that told me. I remember them saying that there was an old lady that was there. She used to be homeless, and they put her up there at Garden Terrace, and that she saw somebody crawling around on the wall in her bedroom. And it was a person that lived down the hall that had OD'd. So she said that person was coming into her room at night and crawling around the wall. And she's like, I can't sleep. And she was telling them, and they were like, well, maybe she's schizophrenic. They didn't know. It's easy how one that's already weak of mind can be influenced. Easy meals for demons and paranormal energy. Yep, Ricardo, you're right. Something going on with this room because when I come in, I can't breathe through my nose.
Those heaters just turned on.
I know, but it did it last Friday too.
Do we need to change the filters? Maybe?
Might be time. It may be part of it. But anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in tonight. And, we didn't even scratch the surface of all that I would like to have talked about, but we have many more days ahead, hopefully. There's a lot of people who are for us and want us to succeed. But like everything, there's going to be people who they're against us and they don't want us to succeed and they want us to fail. Their whole goal and mission is to fail, and you know why? Because something's telling them to not let us tell the truth. They don't want us to tell what's going on in this world, and I really believe that they're being manipulated by something. They think that they're sending the demons, when in fact the demons are controlling them. Would you do a Tuesday show on last night's topic? What was last night's topic? Are you talking about Blondes and Booze when I was on Blondes and Booze last night? Because, folks, go check out that episode of Blondes and Booze that I was on. We talked about the red wall and all kinds of stuff. I don't know which story you're talking, what you're talking about. Okay, folks. Well, we have to run. I hate to, but I got to do it, man. I'm going to call it a night. I'm just reading the comments right now, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. And
thank you to Gil again for coming on.
Thank you, Gil, for coming on. Thank you, Chris Clough. You want to say anything? Parting words? Is this thing malfunctioning?
Give us a second, people.
What's going on with this thing?
We're having some technical issues with our camera here, but
I wonder why it's doing that.
Okay, well,
there we go.
Well, I mean, just want to say, I have done some videos. You guys want to go check them out? It's about abnormal investigations and the stuff they said, or the things they've done. Just earlier today on Betina's, we had that person, Little Bree, whose account at the time when she made that comment and her first comment about that racial remark, I'm not gonna repeat. That account was only 14 days old. So I'm just, just throwing things out there. I just think it's a little weird. I'm pretty sure it's a fake account, and I want you all to just go ahead and check out those videos. I mean, I put out what I can. They also attacked Abe and changed up his whole story, especially about his battle of at Medina as a tanker. And honestly, I think that was pretty horrendous what they did, changing his military story to make it seem like he was some sort of psychotic, crazy guy. So, just go ahead and check them out. I did a couple. Some of them were basically repeated, but it was because they accused me of being a fake person, and they thought that I was Josh. for whatever reason. I mean,
I don't
this guy's
fake
like really
accounts.
busy. I mean, this guy's like super busy. So I mean, to make a second account and then manage it and do all it's just,
And a lot of times when Paranormal Roundtable has its own account, so if you see somebody, because like I went into a chat and one of y'all was using the Paranormal Roundtable account, that's accessed by 5 or 6 different people.
Yeah.
So it could be Nelly, it could be them two, it could be Scorpion, it could be D, it could be anybody. And I get on the chat and I see Paranormal Roundtable on there. I'm like, who's that? I don't even know which one of y'all it is. And but it says Paranormal Roundtable on there. Mm-hmm. And so everybody that's involved with the show is responsible for whatever's said by that account. But I notice people will say, hey, Josh, when I first get into a chat, and I'll be like, I haven't even said anything yet. And it's because Paranormal Roundtable logo is on there, and they think it's me. But if you see me and Paranormal Roundtable in the chat at the same time, obviously it's not me. I don't have time to switch back. I don't do that.
Yeah, we have personal accounts, but we also have our main Paranormal Roundtable account. And for the most part,
Scorpion likes to use it a lot.
Yeah, it's either going to be Scorp or Anthony. He likes to use that one quite a bit too. Mostly me and Wolf have our own personal accounts that we use on
Somebody was
chat.
arguing in the somebody was arguing this long thread in the comment section. And they were talking crap to me, and it was actually Scorpion that was talking to him. And he said it like 80 times, like, this is not Wolf. He put, who is it? Scorpion. He said it on there. And they're like, look, Josh Turner, blah, 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 blah. And I was going through the comments or whatever because my wife had pointed out that there were some negative comments. I went in there to that comment section, and I was like, who the hell is arguing with these people for that long? It was him, it was Scorpion, not me. And so I thought it was kind of humorous that this person was going off, talking all this crap, and Scorpion was just basically trolling him back. And I guess you thought you were getting a rise out of me, and all you were doing was being trolled by him. So that's the extent of anything, nefarious that we do, and that's completely above board and legal because that's our Paranormal Roundtable account that we use for the show. And Scorpion's affiliated with us. So he can use it. He didn't say anything wrong or mean. I just deleted the thread because I thought this is, a big argument on here. And so I just, and I posted, and I was like, this is not him. This is not, I am Josh. Mine is Josh Turner, says that. I don't have time to make fake accounts, stock accounts, and go around trolling people and acting a fool. That's it. I don't. Now, I have some friends that have their own accounts, and they may say something or whatever, but I'm not responsible for them or what they do or say because they're not on my show. And they're free. They have free will, like any human does, to say whatever they want to say. So, that's that. What I will say, though, is this. I am Josh now. Now, I don't waste my time arguing with people a whole lot as me. Okay? Because I don't have time. Okay? That's just me. If somebody else wants to argue and fight and whatever with them from the Paranormal Roundtable people, that's that whatever. But be rest assured, probably if it's coming from the Paranormal Roundtable account, it's not me. Typically. Because I have my own account that I use. And so whatever, somebody gets that account and they're checking the, what is it? You do it, the negative comments, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they go in there, and most of the time we leave the negative comments up because what do I say? Leave them up.
Yeah.
Let them say what they want. I don't care. I'm not hiding from anybody. I'm completely above board and honest. I don't care. Let them up. But what happens is somebody says something that's got cuss words in it or it's too vulgar, and Anthony will go in and strike it down, or Scorpion will strike it down, or somebody will strike it down. Me, myself, personally, as Josh Turner, I typically will say something underneath you and just say, what's your problem? Why are you so upset, and why are you hating? That's it. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to say something smart. I'm going to say it like that. So when you see the Paranormal Roundtable account, 90% of the time you're not arguing with me. You're just arguing with one of them. I have nothing to do with that. So if you have some hatred or you want to voice something for me, wait till you see my name. I don't hide. But psycho guy up there, he likes to make 1,000 accounts and hide behind people he says are not him, and then he shuts those accounts down later on when you catch him.
Yeah, isn't it funny though? It's like, as soon as you point out an account, all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not even more suspicious. Come on, guys. Use your brains a little
And,
bit.
you got people that totally believe it.
Yep. Use your brains, people.
They say the most ridiculous things, like the situation with old Vulture. When you sit there and that's why I don't talk to those people anymore, because the ones that are just going to be on his side and not going to believe. And there's not a lot of them. There's only a handful of them. But I'm just like, dude, if you choose to follow him and be part of what, you're being willfully ignorant. I mean, he's been stone cold busted. I mean, everything, I mean, it's obvious. But people, they want to believe what they want to believe. And, these people keep firing off. I'm sure I'll wake up tomorrow to a whole new round of bull crap. What's up?
Also, I just want to add, I did watch some of the other channels' remarks about that racial remark that was posted up there. The thing is, they had all their moderators. From my understanding, they had all their moderators there on that show. Randy Petticourt, that guy, had just recently made a comment before that comment was aired or posted on their chat. And they said, and I believe I'm not too sure, but they were just trying to avoid the backlash from that racist remark. That well, I mean, we I forget what she said. Well, it was to the fact basically she was trying to get away from it, just saying that, oh well, I mean, not all of us can see these remarks and stuff like that. But I'm gonna say that there was another guy. And I don't know, I guess that name is a little weird, but he goes by like Chimichanga or something, or I believe it was Chimichanga. He made comments, and I believe I got it on the video. Those were deleted, and those comments were like nothing, hateful or anything like that, but just kind of calling him out. But that one with Little Breeby, what was left up there, they had to have seen it.
Yeah, they're real good at kicking everybody's comments out that are
instantly
negative about them. All those channels do that. But you'll see people, cutting for us and say something and they don't allow it. Now, that's their prerogative. I would expect nothing less. I mean, I do the same thing. You come in here and start talking crap and you're against us, well, we're going to kick you out. Of course. I mean, I'm not holding that against them. What you're saying is they see it, they have the hawk eye to catch anything that's on our side. That people say, hey, and most of what people are saying from us are just, hey, why are you being this way? And they delete it real quick because anybody that says anything, like their argument, they have no argument. Anybody from our side can shred what they're doing. I mean, it's pretty obvious how vile they are. But you're saying that they had to have seen that because they deleted who was it?
I'm assuming his name is Chimichanga.
Okay, so they deleted him, but they saw that, but then they're going to pretend like they didn't see Breeby.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the point that I'm trying to make. I mean, that other guy, it's there in the videos. If you guys want to go check it out,
Walking with Giants. Yes, it was left up.
Yeah, it was left up. The channel is like Sir Cluffy Cluffington. And just go ahead and check it out. It's there. I screenshot a lot of the photos there, so just go check it out. It's there. I'm pretty sure I added the Chimichangas guy's photo there too. But even though he might have been pointing things out, the whole point that I'm trying to get at is just that racist remark. There's no way they could have. There's no way they could have missed it. But they got the other guy's remarks. I'm pretty sure there were other remarks too. And what they did was pretty heinous. The racist stuff. I mean, it came out today. Little Breebery with Bettina's show.
Yeah, on Bettina's show, I saw that with Chris Garitano, and she had to delete it because they said the same chicken watermelon thing.
Yeah,
right?
the same BS, and that's the people they have going on over there. And then, of course, what they did with Abe Ciaz was bad too. I want to just reiterate that Mr. Ciaz here, I mean, he is a veteran. And these people go out of the way to trash a veteran. Randy Petticourt claimed to be a Marine, but never said it. This is the one thing that I thought it was very bothersome to me. When Abe was talking about that joking around about the boar sighting thing, I spoke with different people in different parts of the military, from Marines, Army. And they all know what bore sighting is. And the Marine that I spoke to it was an elderly guy, and he knew what that was. Randy Petticourt claimed to be a Marine, but he remained silent. So it's there's only two things I could think of: either the guy's full of crap, he's not a Marine, or just allowed it to happen, knowing that it's fake. He let another serviceman go down like that.
Which I don't believe that. Penny Van says, she's saying at Debbie. Debbie says Randy Petticourt, I truly believe, is a fake account. It's like Penny Van says, Debbie, from what I've learned, he is a real person and even was on one of the show. I can't remember my glasses.
He even shows up on a lot of the channels that have nothing to do with.
Well, see, there's that's one thing, right? But Randy Petticourt showed up on that show. There was no visual. It was just
they never show, and he could have got a friend to say that. I mean,
exactly.
It could be anybody going, and I just remember, like, when I was being shown this garbage, and I remember him going, I was the Marine, hoo-ah! And when he did that, and I was like, I said, I'm sorry, I can't watch this. I got to get, my ears are bleeding, my eyes, I had to turn it away. I could not bear the sound of it was like nails on a chalkboard, and I just couldn't listen anymore. I can't watch any of them. I can't bear to listen to them, and it's not even that they're talking about us or whatever. They're terrible. The shows are terrible. It's not even good shows. It's not quality. I mean, there's nothing. You got the one guy talking as Colonel Sanders. I don't know what is that. I mean, then you got, you're going to learn some things about yourself. You're going to learn some things about me and some things about you. And you're just like, what is wrong? These people are demented. What's wrong with these people? You're just, people show me clips all the time. They send me clips. I appreciate you guys keeping me in the know. But I cannot watch these people. I cannot look at these people. It hurts my head. My brain is just swollen. I can't do it. And he was seen on Mike's. When was this?
All I remember is he called into my show, and I'm holding air quotes.
I don't remember him being seen on there at all. I don't remember that. I just know that he was supposedly on. And then there's the other guy that's up there like, yeah. And I just can't listen to him either. And just the way he says things and does things. And there's like 1 million people sitting there saying that they had subscribed some kind of, I don't even know what it is, some kind of subscription. And then he made them, their password didn't work anymore. And then he never gave them their money back. And I keep hearing that all the time. And they're just a mess. They're messy people, a big old mess.
Exactly, Maynard.
There's nothing to be gained by dealing with these people. The best thing you could do is just get away from them. They're a mess, all of them. And then you have the vulture, the backstabber, the one that, and he claims that he was all kinds of stuff. And now he's, I don't know.
What bothered me about that whole thing with vulture. Okay. There was this lady who is basically, she was a victim of this guy, this DDoS, person or whatever his name is. This guy had emailed or had sent message to this lady. The only way that he could have got that lady's, that information from about this lady talking about. Sorry, it bothers me just thinking about it because it's horrible. So, there is this text message that was shared on Batmom's YouTube channel. If you go to the Batmom channel, it's there. There's a text message that was sent that she screenshotted. It's a message between her and Vault, sent by this guy that abused her. That's Vault basically gave that information to an abuser. My issue about that is that he claimed to be this outstanding guy. He claimed to be a good guy. He claims a lot of things. But that right there, that's a horrible human being right there to do something like that.
Yeah, and I think it was because of a video. I believe it was because of a video, and I think that's why he did it. But in the end, you don't betray your friends, and he thought that what's his name was going to get the video, Waters the Hut, but he was going to get the video, and I guess that's why he panicked and decided he was going to be a turncoat. I mean, But in the end, there's no reward for doing the bad things that these people do, folks. There's not. And what's his name? If you noticed, Swampy, he's over there like uploading video after video after video, and he's. I think what he's doing is he's like re-uploading, right? Which I don't think you're supposed to do that. So if he's re-uploading videos, I don't know if that's a reportable offense or not. I don't know how that works, but I've heard people say that, but I haven't looked into it. I don't have time to look into all this stuff. That's why they were able to do what they did, because I don't have time. I think only one of them works. I think he's the only one that works. I think he's a secretary, or maybe he just does this full time. I don't know. When you manage to cheat the system, and then you get plaques and things like that. And he's always like, "Let me destroy a narrative. Let me destroy a narrative." You haven't destroyed anything. All you've done is just repeat yourself ad nauseum and make everybody realize how ridiculous all your friends are. The filthy five, I call them. And then the other one who's always going behind our backs. Let me tell you something, okay? Potato Head, Mr. Deuce Machine. Let me tell you something. This is for you, okay? I was on Blondes and Booze last night. We had 339 people in the chat. At that exact time, okay, somebody went over there and looked at your thing, friends of Krista and Brandy. You had 119 people. Oh, man. Your channel's bigger than Blondes and Booze, and they beat the crap out of you. You go and you look at go look up my show I did last night, Blondes and Booze. How many people were in there? Look it up.
It was like 377.
No, look up how many views it got.
Okay.
Get a little testy when I talk about these things. I didn't know you were going to go there, Chris.
3,300.
I honestly didn't know you were going to go there. I really didn't.
know,
So,
I-
I mean, I kind of did not want to do that. I didn't know, but you did it. So we're here. How many?
3,300
3,300 views.
from just one day.
One show last night that I did. Now, if those are bots and fake, whatever, like Ike Mikey is saying, the black neck guy with the dirty neck, if it's like what you're saying, fraudulent Frazier, let me ask you a question. How did they get 3,300 views? Because my fans travel. Are those bots? Are those fake people? I don't think so. These aren't fake people. Those numbers down there are real. Those are real numbers. This is not fake. This is not fake. These people, real people. The numbers last night in the chat, folks, and I encourage everyone who has not watched that to go check them out and give them some support, show them some love, and listen to the whatever, the show, because we did a good job on that show, me and the Blondes and Booze. I always think we do a good job, all of us. When we go out and do what we got to do, we represent PRT. We got to be paratroopers, right? So if you go and check it out, 3,300 views already in one day. That's about how many views they get in one of their videos. Even the big guy who thinks he's got all these people, 170,000 subscribers guy. Okay? I'm not interested in fighting you anymore. I don't care about you. I don't care about Icky Ike. I don't care about Vault the Vulture. I don't care about Choke Artist. I don't care about Potato Head. I don't care about any of you. As far as I'm concerned, this war is over. If you stop, I'm not going to say another word because I don't need to. I don't need to. But what you did today, Ike, was a low blow. You're a piece of garbage. You're a garbage pail kid. And the sooner you're drummed out of this whole community, I know you're listening. You're sitting there going, and look, I'm going to do my impression of him. That's you right there, seething with your hat because you're bald and you're gross and you're ugly. And I don't care. Go scream it from the rooftops. I said that. You said you're bald. You're all bald. The problem is with this is the hair club for men, right? These guys, they have no hair. And they're mad because I have a full head of hair and you don't, and I don't have a bunch of gray, even though you stress me out, You're mad because you're not good looking people, folks. I'm telling you, they're ugly people. They're not handsome. Only the mom maybe could love them. I don't know. You're very unhealthy looking. You're very unhealthy looking. I dare say you're probably all diabetics. You probably eat way too much sugar. You probably drink way too much caffeine. No telling what else you're doing. Okay? Get yourself right with God spiritually, and the rest will follow. Then you become healthier physically, mentally. Read a book. I know you hate books. A couple of you guys don't read because you hate books. You probably, throw them into the fire or whatever. Ike says that they're all fiction, that all books are fiction. So I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. So what does that mean?
I don't want to get all.
I mean,
it bothers me because you
need to come to.
Sorry
about that.
I don't want to get all, fluffled about it, but when he said that, the first person I thought of, like, the one person that everyone should have like look up to, because I mean she's like legit boots on the ground, is Linda Godfrey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy is saying that, all books are fiction. She did more than that guy would ever do in his entire life. She's a real, true boots on the ground kind of person with research that she did herself. What has Mike done? Throwing a rock
and got
walk
caught.
Around.
Wouldn't stop talking about it because he knew he got caught. If you look at Janice, filthy Janice, she took a picture of Brandon Tolbert, who's an African American guy, he's a friend of mine, lives up in Dallas. She called him one of my thugs. Why? What? Because he asked you hard questions that you couldn't answer. Filthy Janice, he asked you these questions. Nobody terrorized you. You tried to sexually harass me on those texts. I put them up there for everybody to see. Folks, go to my Facebook. Look at what Dirty Waters did, how he started this whole thing with me. He threatened me. The threats are right there on Facebook. This is not slander. This is the truth. He slanders and he commits libel. I tell the truth. And he commits more libel and more libel and more libel, which I'm sure tomorrow I'll wake up to a whole bunch of it. Thanks a lot, Chris. I wasn't going to say anything, but now we're here. But I know you felt compelled to say something. But the truth is the truth, folks. I don't care. These people, they're if you only knew the depths of how much they don't know. And we don't even going to sit here and talk about it, because some of that stuff we can't, because you can't prove it. But it's circumstantial, but it's pretty damning if you just stopped and looked at it. All I can tell you is look into people. Not just them, everybody. Go look into people. Look into their criminal records. Find out who you're dealing with. Proof is in the pudding. I did 2 successful conferences. They've attacked me both times. The stuff that he was talking about in that text, that Dirty Waters was talking about, that's from the first conference. You were mad from the first conference. Salty is the Morton Salt girl with the umbrella. That's how mad you are. Salty, bitter, salty and bitter. Look, nobody did anything to you. You jumped in and you went over there and you supported this guy. So everything that happens to this guy, pay attention, because when it all comes out and it's all said and done, take a look at this guy, Ike, up there. Mike. Abdominal indigestion. And look at what these people did. Oh, they were in their chat every day. They're back and forth, interviewing each other and back and forth. All this, subterfuge and whatever you've done. And then you, choke artist, you're driving through Texas showing a video of you being in Texas. You think I give a crap? Don't come to my house. I promise you that. And all these little things, these shenanigans that you're sending our way, just swat them back at you in the name of Jesus. It's not going to work. I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish by this. You're doing these things to me and Barton, and several other people have had these problems with y'all. Nobody cares anymore, dude. All right, you're done. You're old news. Move on. Maybe y'all can get together and scrape a few bucks together to sue me, and I'll countersue you, and everything will come out through exploratory. It will be interesting, to say the least, because then you're going to have to cover all the court costs when I win, not if I win, but when I win, because of how you guys started this whole thing, and everything you've done, all of you, is going to come out. That's why you don't sue me, because you can't. Because if you do, it's all going to come out. The big, fake, whole, fraudulent bunch of you. All you can do is go and run and tell that to YouTube every chance you get. Run and tell that to Facebook. How's that working out for you? You guys slander me every time you get on your freaking channel. And the community tab is just made for talking crap about Josh Turner. And then one of them, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this whole situation today, and I'm going to go on. One of them said that I have 15 people against just him. There's 5 of your channels against me. Now, I mean, I have allies and other people. Barton's gotten involved and really helped, but let's be honest. Your whole concerted efforts have been against me. Y'all fought with other people here and there, but, you try to ignore everybody so you could focus on me. You're focused on me, and you're getting your freaking asses handed to you. Every time you open your mouth, it just digs the hole deeper, and you got deeper and deeper and deeper, and you keep doubling down. If this was a casino, they'd be broke already. You'd be having to pawn your car and your house. You've lost. That's it. All you can do now is skulk in the shadows and run up there and use a little Brebe account and say racist things. Because we know you're a racist. Yeah, you're a racist. You are. You know you are. You got family members who are just straight up. I know it. And your own people. People that live around you. Not just your family. People that live in that area. Telling people things about you. All of you. People in your everyday life. Go ahead, Vulture. Go talk to your uncle. Get a lawyer. Get your uncle the lawyer, whatever. I don't give a crap what you do. Any one of you comes at me legally, I'm going to slam the hammer down. I'm going to put everything I have into exposing you, and I'll just take it all the way through I'll run through all of you. You all started with me. I didn't start with you. You started with me. Every one of you brought war to my doorstep. Didn't work out too good, did it? No. Because you're lazy, and you're not smart, you're just manipulative, and you do very bad work. And I don't care. You can take this to your lawyer too. Go ahead. Run and tell that. I'm good. Folks, thank you, folks. Thank you for listening. Next time we do a show, I did not know that my esteemed colleague was going to bring all this up.
Sorry.
No, it's not nothing to be sorry about, but it gets me going. But because we have to explain,
Yeah.
But we're going to try and not mention these people because we don't want to. Okay. But everybody that knows. All right. And eventually they'll just be a memory, and we can move on with ourselves and our lives and let them bask in the inglorious light that they've shined on themselves. Their cockroachity selves. All right. Thank you, folks. Everybody, I love you guys. Thank you for being the best audience. I swear you guys are the best audience in YouTube land. You're the best audience around. And we're just going to keep growing. They have slowed our growth down to about a quarter of what it was or what it should be. But that's okay. They've slammed us with spam and every possible thing they could possibly do to my channel. People, when they try to tell me now, I'm not going to take this. If people keep telling me, you should just ignore it and go on. If you understood or knew, what's going on here, the implications, you have no idea. You have no idea how much stuff is happening here. There is no ignoring and going on for either side at this point. They're fighting because they don't want to become irrelevant, and this is all they have. So they're not going to stop. So we have to continue to fight back because rumors get started. They made crazy false claims. We committed felonies and all sorts of stuff. No, we did not. So it's ridiculous. But eventually, folks, it'll calm down. I'm confident of that, and it'll end because they have nothing better to do. They have to go on with their lives. Hopefully, eventually, maybe they'll get work. Somebody offer them a job, maybe. I don't know. They'll probably run away from you. Here's the thing I'm going to tell you, folks. The books, Werewolves and the Dogman Experience, or Phenomena, sorry. The Bigfoot Phenomena, those are on Amazon. Go check them out. Yeah. So those, and then we're in the process of getting the Kickstarter going for the board game. We're going to see how that works. Tony is still helping Nelly tweak it, and Anthony too. We're doing what we got to do. Pray for us that these demonic attacks that they're sending our way, that they've been messing with all of us. Clough has been a victim of it. So have I. So has Tess. So has Barton. So has Bettina. So has Letitia. So has my wife. So yeah, there's been multiple people who've been attacked by these people and spiritually. So they're not playing with just, whatever. They're doing what they're doing. But it doesn't matter. You're not going to win. Like I said before, I don't fear you, and I don't respect you in any shape or form. If you want respect, make me respect you. Make one of you guys make me respect you, because I don't respect any of you or anything you do, and I don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth. I think you're all liars. You're all frauds. Thank you for being PRT and making it what it is, folks. Thank you and good night.